Bro, like, listen, like, I don't like Stanley. I think the only person I have been was Stanley.
And Nate, Stanley doesn't state the obvious, like what the F. He's used talking points. Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
The nature of American culture, it's a white people problem. Okay? I literally said they need to understand
that people bother you like that. If they want to beef with you, it's called Stanley versus the world.
And just assume their character by stereotype?
I think people do that every day.
Okay, I didn't ask you.
What do I think is okay?
Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here this afternoon on Wednesday, December 3rd. And I'm seeing Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania here, and Columbus, Indiana, Rockford, Michigan, Matthews County, Virginia, Rochester, New York, Brooklyn is in the chat today, Western Massachusetts, Vancouver, Washington, Pewaukee, Wisconsin. That's a new one for me. And it looks now as if Facebook is on. So welcome everybody to a conversation today with New York State Representative Zoran Mamdani, who is the New York City mayor-elect. Thank you so much for being here, Representative Mamdani.
It is such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So let's start right in with talking about your campaign for the New York City mayorship. Elliot Morris at Strength in Numbers identified yesterday the idea that it's really you who brought the term affordability into public conversation, which now everybody is using. And certainly you emphasize that, but it strikes me that what you were talking about was not just costs, but rather a larger issue in American democracy. Am I right about that?
Absolutely. You know, I often speak in New York City about the greatest mayor we ever had being Fiorello LaGuardia. And he spoke about the fact that you cannot preach self-government and liberty to people in a starving land. And I think the more that we think of democracy as solely an ideal or a value to be protected, as opposed to something that has to show its relevance to the struggles of working people in their day-to-day lives, the more that we will actually lose that democracy. And when we were talking about affordability, we were also talking about the fact that there is this ever-widening chasm between the difficulty that New Yorkers are facing in affording the city that they love and their ability to belong to that city and to belong to the ideals, the fabrics, and the democracy of that city. And this is, while the most expensive city in the country, it is not, in fact, unique and distinct to our city. It is a crisis that people are facing across the country that might be measured in different things depending on where you are, but it's a crisis all the same, where people are struggling with both the smaller and the larger questions all at once.
Okay, I want to dig into that in a little bit, but before I get there, can you talk about how your approach to organizing a political campaign actually reflected concepts of democracy?
You know, when we began the campaign, there's an immense amount of pressure at that time to go through what consultants would advise you with. They would say, for example, that you need to poll test a number of the ideas that you foreground. You need to wait until you have those results before you spell out what exactly the campaign is. And we took a very different approach where we didn't have enough money for polling from the first days. Instead, we actually spoke to New Yorkers. We asked New Yorkers, listened to New Yorkers, and grounded a campaign in three central ideas. And those ideas were to freeze the rent for rent-stabilized tenants, of which in New York City there are more than 2 million out of a city of 8.5 million, to make the slowest buses in America fast and free, and to deliver universal childcare. And democracy, as you've gestured, it isn't simply something at a ballot box. It's the notion also that we have a role in determining our own futures. And what these three crises that we identified all have to do with democracy is that they have been the limitations for people to actually choose their own futures in different ways. For housing, we are speaking about costs that are skyrocketing on an annual basis, and the last and most stabilized segment of the housing market in New York City is the rent stabilized market, and even that has seen a 12% increase in rents over the last few years. Public transit, even just in the name, it's clear that the intention is that everyone can use it, and yet what we find is that $2.90 is out of reach for 1 in 5 New Yorkers now. And finally, childcare is $22,500 a year, and no matter how much money you're earning, that is a significant hit to your ability to actually raise a child in this city. And if we want people to understand themselves as part of a vibrant democracy, we actually have to have them understand their ability to keep living in that democracy and keep determining their own future, as opposed to just being pushed further and further to the brink, where when I go into a building and the first people that I meet, I'll ask them how long their commute was. They'll tell me it's 2 hours. I ask them why. They'll say, because I live in Pennsylvania, or I live in Jersey City, or I live anywhere outside of New York City, because of how expensive we've made this city.
Well, something you said there is what we in history and sometimes in politics refer to as agency, the idea that people have to have control over their lives, and that's part of American democracy. And what really jumped out to me about your coalition was, while a number of people focused on the young people who were in your coalition, in fact, it was quite broad, was it not?
It was, and I think what was so exciting is the longer the campaign went on, the broader this coalition became. And it's a coalition of those who had never voted before, and a coalition of those who had not voted for a very long time because of the faith that they had lost in their politics. You know, I'll tell you this: the other day I was at an AT&T store not too far from where I am now, and my phone had broken. I sat down with an employee and asked them for help, and they asked me if I had been a regular because they could recognize me. And I said, no, I've never been here before. They said, maybe you've walked by. I said, maybe I have. And I said, I'm actually going to be the mayor in about a month. And he was taken aback and started to apologize. I said, there's nothing to apologize for. And then he explained to me his life was getting up in the morning, thinking about work, getting ready for work, getting on the train to go to work, being at work, going home and doing it again, and being in this bubble of his own life where he couldn't afford to look past it. And part of that means not engaging with the politics of the city that he calls home. Part of that is also a reflection for many New Yorkers, though, that whether or not they engage, whether or not they know the names of the next mayor or the current mayor, their life seems to stay the same. And I think that comes back to this notion that you're saying of agency, of democracy, and frankly, the importance of extending democracy from the ballot box into other parts of our lives. So that
Okay, I'm thoroughly lost here. I hate to sound callous, but you were there to get a phone. I'd love to know if he had an actual problem. Living your life is not a problem. If you are living a life you would rather improve, well, ask for something. But I'm sorry, that point is a failure to launch. So the guy's living his life, doing his job. I'm other than the milk of human kindness. Is there anything I can do to help you? And so what? So while I've got this paused, welcome to Stanley versus the world. Everybody, please make sure you hit the like button on your way in. And support the show. It has been a good week, but for some reason or another, it's overcast here in Carroll County, and I guess I'm mopey. I'm literally making vegetable stock, just blanch some green beans, might make a bread pudding, and I've got the pita bread dough rising. So looks like it's going to be an early night and a shorter show. I've got some things I want to talk about, but this isn't going to be an all-night affair. So let's see what happens.
People can actually understand themselves as actors and not simply as subjects to a system that is giving them two options: where they are or worse. And that is not something that's sustainable or tenable, frankly, for our city or for our country.
Well, this is interesting to me.
It is very tenable. Dude, this is not a good story. So you were he told you about his life, but what did he say? His life was bad? Did he say he did not like his life? I need more details. And it is annoying. This is pablum. And I like Zoran. I think he's, an excellent politician with a great future. But dude, that story meant nothing. Other than, I guess my next question would be, did you get good customer service at the AT&T store? Did you get a new phone?
And one of the things that was interesting to me about your candidacy was the degree to which New York City has often been a harbinger of what's going to happen in American democracy elsewhere. So you referenced Fiorello LaGuardia, which I love because my mother, who was born in 1922, used to talk about listening to him read the comics. He had a national reach because of that. She was actually not in New York, but she always referred to him as the little flower. But even before that, you get the rise of people like Al Smith at the turn of the last century, who recognized that government had to answer the needs of ordinary Americans in order to remain a democracy, which is very much on the table at that point. But that brings up another issue for me that I find interesting about your approach to politics.
No. The government is not there to answer the needs. And maybe she's using the wrong word. And I don't know. I seem to be persnickety today. No, government's not there to answer the needs. It's there to fix the problems or help with problems. No. I need a fucking Maserati.
And that is, I think in the United States, at least since the 1980s, we have tended to think of populism. That is the idea of including people previously included as being an
That is not the definition of populism.
Element of the right wing. But in fact, in our history, populism and progressivism usually go hand in hand. And I'm seeing this a lot now. People are talking about the difference between,
Usually they do, but not during the Wilson administration. They are not joined at the hip.
Populism and progressivism, and some people saying, well, I'm a populist, I'm not a progressive, and so on. And yet it seems to me that you are reaching back to that Al Smith populist progressive alliance of the previous century and saying, hey, wait a minute, people, regardless of how they have voted or not voted in the past, tend to want things like transportation and childcare and healthcare and housing, and charting a course forward, as I say, as you just said, without the pollsters and really with talking to people on the ground. Is that a fruitful way to think about this, do you think?
I think it's very fruitful, and I think it's critically important that we identify this as being a part of our nation's history, that we are actually reaching back towards, that there is a legacy that we are looking to be a part of, as opposed to inventing something entirely new. And it's, as you said, when I speak to New Yorkers, I am asked far less to describe my politics and far more to answer the question of whether my politics includes them. And that's what people are interested in. They want to know, are their struggles going to be reflected in your focus? And when you speak about making buses fast and free, universal childcare, freezing the rent, you will see that we're talking about 2/3 or 3/4 of New Yorkers who are in support of these things. And no matter how much they are characterized as if they are marginal positions or radical positions or things of that nature, we find the truth of it is that it is a mainstream position. And what is mainstream about it is that it identifies costs in working people's lives that are limiting their ability to live in this city, whether at all or to a fuller extent. And you speak about Al Smith. I was speaking about Fiorello LaGuardia. You were saying that I think your mother was referring to him as Little Flower, and it's this beautiful nickname of his, which I have to also mention is the name of a great coffee shop in Astoria, if you're ever there on 36th Avenue. And I also think of FDR. who you cannot tell the story, frankly, of LaGuardia without telling the story of FDR. You cannot tell the story of a affirmative municipal vision of what democracy can look like without the relationship with the federal government that it was so built on. And FDR also spoke about, when looking at the demise of democracy, in his words, in several great nations, it was that people gave up democracy in the hopes of getting something to eat. And we often think about a withering faith in democracy as if it is a reflection of an increasing faith in an alternate form of government, when in fact what it is a withering faith in this government's ability to deliver on the material needs of working people. That's what we have to focus on if we want to inspire that
That's a
faith.
very good point.
And I think it is part of a great American history, and also a history not just in this city, but across this country, one that we often paper over or forget, or as you said, start to lose sight of how what is populist can in fact be what is progressive. And I even found this myself, that after the last presidential election, there were obituaries written about the Democratic Party's ability to attract the support of young men, of Asian voters, of immigrants, and the swings in those constituencies towards this administration were written about as if it was final. And I went to two of the neighborhoods in New York City that saw the largest swings, Fordham Road in the Bronx, Hillside Avenue in Queens. And I found at the core of that swing was the desire for an economic agenda that spoke to a skyrocketing cost of living crisis that was being measured in rent, in childcare, in public transit, and even in utilities and groceries. And in fact, if you could offer an alternative economic agenda, you could inspire those same constituencies to come back without having to have a debate around the politics that we describe it, so long as it's relevant to people's lives.
The word inspire is important there, I think. And I think you're right on that. But now the rubber is meeting the road. Now you have to take those ideas and turn them into actual policies. And I would love it if you would talk a little bit about what that looks like. I know you've been very transparent about that. I see you've got Lena Khan on your transition team. She's one of my heroes. How do you foresee taking these ideas and making them real for people?
I think at the core of it is to build a team that is excellent, a team that is characterized by the work that they've done as opposed to the people that they know. And too often in government, it is the exact opposite. And as much as we want to blame these things as if they are all a function of the current federal administration, we have to recognize, in fact, that much of this approach predates that administration. It has become a function of city politics. And I remember one of the things that Lena Khan mentioned to me in one of our first meetings was that when she went to the FTC, that she found, as she described it, a great forgetting, that people had forgotten the laws and the tools that they actually had at their disposal to fight for working people. And I think that we have seen a similar thing here in New York City, where departments that were once storied on the front lines, for example, of fights for civil rights and equal rights, like the law department in New York City, have instead been hamstrung by underfunding and lack of interest and commitment from a city hall. And what that has left us with is a shell of what city government could be. And so I think it comes back to that team. So far, we've made a few key appointments. The first two were of my chief of staff, Elbiz Gard-Church, and of my first deputy mayor, Dean Fullahan. And I'll just use Dean as an example. He's someone who comes into this job with 47 years of government experience. And one thing that I found remarkable when I first met with him was he spoke of the importance of changing the culture of no to a culture of how within city government. And so often, the more time you spend in government, the less ambitious you become about government. And what I have appreciated so much about him and his view of the work that we do is that it is undimmed by the limitations that we've seen over the years, and instead still has this sense of what government's potential is. And to me, beyond just the question of excellence, building a team, you must have the marriage of fluency and ambition and imagination. And too often these are pitted as if they are at odds, when in fact they can live together and showcase an understanding of what has come before us and what has to come now, so that we don't just replicate what we are currently living through.
So let me push a little on that. That's fascinating. The idea that we have hollowed out the laws and the regulations that in the past have served us and have forgotten that they're there. I've never heard anyone articulate it that way. And of course, we see that at the national level where a lot of people talk about throwing out the Constitution because it doesn't work. And other people say, hang on just a minute. If we actually followed the laws that we have and the constitutional amendments that we have, we wouldn't really need to rewrite it. They're already there. We're just not using them. How do you put teeth into those? You mentioned funding, but I'm assuming that with your background, you're also expecting to be able to bring New Yorkers behind that idea.
Absolutely. I think there's two key things. One is the political will. You know, as you laid out, oftentimes it's not a question of developing new tools. It's whether or not you want to use the ones that you already have. In New York City, we have housing codes already on the books. We have bad landlords that have violated those codes, and they have been charged fees to the tune of $800 million. The city has not collected that money from them, not even $1 of that $800 million. That's not because of a lack of tools, it's a lack of will. And I lay this out to say that this is quite a simple example of if you wanted to, then you would. And it's this difference of will that we see even in what we treat as the violation of the law. Wage theft is one of the largest, most pervasive crimes in New York City. And yet we don't treat it with the seriousness of other crimes. And yet it has the potential to debilitate a working person's life. And that's what excites me so much, is that just as much as we have new ideas and a new vision for what city government can do, we also, at the core of it, believe that city government can and should work. And that means utilizing the tools it already has. And I think the second part of this is we've been told a story that not enough people want to work in public service any longer. We have 17,000 vacant jobs in New York City government. That story has been tied together to say this is simply a reflection of the way things are. We opened up a hiring portal. We received 70,000 applications. So clearly the issue is not a lack of interest. It's actually the lack of interest in filling the positions from the perspective of City Hall. So one of the key things is bringing New Yorkers along with you, where you fully fund city agencies such that we are actually doing this kind of critical work, because the absence of a fully funded agency can be felt, whether it means increased garbage on your sidewalk or it means a park where we're not actually cleaning up the debris that can then be used as a basis for a brush fire, or it means having lifeguards at every single swimming pool so that people can actually feel safe when they are engaging in one of the best leisure activities in New York City. It's all connected to a vision of an affirmative sense of what city government can do.
Listen, I know you have a heart out, so I'm going to let you go, but I just want to say you've given us an awful lot to think about, and I really appreciate it. I'm fascinated by this moment and this movement in New York City's history and what it says for America, and actually am sitting here plotting, writing about it. So I hope that you will come back, and I will speak for the people here. We wish you the best of luck going forward, and we'll watch what happens with great interest. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, I really, really appreciate it. It's really been lovely. And I would love to come back and keep speaking about this. And I think just even at the beginning where you were welcoming so many of your viewers from across the country, I know that while our focus here is on New York City, that the questions that you have asked, these are questions that could be asked of anywhere in our country. And these are issues that Americans are facing across the entirety of our nation. And what's so exciting about this moment is it does feel like there's a reawakening of possibility, where even just the language of politics has felt for so long as if it has to be dark, when in fact it can be light, while recognizing the weight of everything that we are actually speaking about. Because I'll tell you, the mayor of New York City has been described as the second hardest job in the country historically, and people often come up to me and ask me about feeling pressure or burden or obligation, and those are all real. But what is often missing is the opportunity that comes with this, that when you win in elected office, as opposed to in a campaign, you can actually change working people's lives. And that's something they can feel, they can touch, they can breathe. And that is something that is at the core of bringing faith back to our democracy. So thank you so much for having me on. I look forward to staying in touch.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, goddamn, he's got a new girlfriend after after all that. Charming dude. So anyway, let's get into a very few news stories, compared to usual. Republicans begin to tighten the screws on Hegseth's Pentagon. Yeah, this dude's a fuck up, and he just looks like a drunk. I'm sure he's not drinking. Nothing like that is occurring. He's just fucking incompetent. So let's listen to a little bit of this, and I think the look on his face says it all.
Just waiting. Check your address and order now at HollywoodFeed.com.
And read by Josh, an AI-generated voice. In a classified briefing for lawmakers scrutinizing the Trump administration's killing of suspected drug smugglers around Latin America, top Republicans in the room appeared frustrated. The Pentagon, facing questions about its legal basis for attacking civilian vessels, sent no lawyers to the October meeting, a move multiple lawmakers in the room considered inexplicable. The Defense Department officials who did attend, those people said, were unable to explain the mission's strategy and scope, even as President Donald Trump openly mused about expanding the campaign to include land targets inside Venezuela. As exasperation among Republicans over the lack of transparency grows, Admiral Frank M. Bradley is set to meet with lawmakers Thursday to discuss a September 2nd missile strike on a boat that killed 11 people, including 2 survivors who died in a follow-up attack as they clung to the wreckage. He oversaw the mission and is expected to tell them that he considered the survivors viable targets, not shipwrecked, defenseless mariners, said a person familiar with the matter who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe private or otherwise sensitive conversations. That strike has intensified scrutiny of the Pentagon, and key lawmakers have questioned their confidence in Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. GOP-led committees have embarked on the most aggressive oversight campaign so far in the former Fox News host's tumultuous 10 months on the job. In the past week, the House and Senate Armed Services Committees have opened separate inquiries to determine whether Hegseth or Bradley may be culpable for orders they issued in the September boat strike that lawmakers and law of war experts say may have been a war crime. Representative Mike D. Rogers, Alabama, chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, condemned the secrecy in the October meeting, saying Congress had gotten more information from the Pentagon during the Biden administration, according to 2 people in the room. A spokesperson for Rogers said it would be inappropriate to share details from classified discussions, and that they wouldn't be responding to claims about what was said. The oversight efforts stand out at a time when Republicans in Congress have mostly avoided openly criticizing the Pentagon, even as some of Hegseth's most audacious moves, including
Hey, Mella.
Hey, Stanley. I sent you greetings in the chat room. I was listening to this current I'm listening to what you're playing. So, how are you?
Pretty good.
That's great.
Could be worse. How are you?
I'm great.
Good. I saw you on trying to figure you were on some show I watched over the weekend.
Was I drunk?
You know what? I don't remember. Probably.
Did I say something outlandish? Because I remember
no.
I said something recently that was really, really crude.
Oh, really? I'm
yeah.
looking forward. No, you were. It might have been Bob's. It was one of those channels, and I don't, I subscribe to them. I don't necessarily watch.
Oh yeah, Gospel of Bob. Last night I was discussing how an old high school sweetheart was reaching out to me, and I was asking their advice as to how to handle that.
Oh, well, I generally don't watch Bob's show, and I'll
I was not drunk when I was
you don't have to explain any of that, but I will say this.
Mm-hmm.
That's an odd crowd to ask about relationships. Which one of those motherfuckers has a relationship?
Well, here's the thing. If I dare to take YouTube personas seriously, sign me up for the psych ward. Like, I'm just not taking. How can I put this? When it comes to my persona online, I contribute to entertaining the channel. That's what I do. I'm not actually any event that I'm looking for consultation, I will seek professional consultation.
Okay,
What I'm
well,
doing is my persona. I've designated my persona's obligation to entertain people, and I'm being candid with you right now. A lot of people would like to believe I'm coming across as someone who is, dare I say, authentic and forthright. And it is true. Oftentimes, I will extend myself in that manner, but for the most part, I understand totally that this is a persona that I'm displaying, and it's in the interest of promoting someone's channel through entertainment. That's what I do.
You know what? I kind of have to admire you. I am just not that sophisticated. I'm me.
Well, I am.
I
You
am.
know my place, and I stay in that position.
Consider it a compliment. I'm just not. I'm me, and have no interest.
And I'm
in
being
being,
candid with you. You know, I'm like,
well,
I've
no.
never before said
Like
this
I
out
said,
loud.
I think it's sophisticated.
I've never said this out loud to anybody. I thought people would interpret that, but they don't. They actually think I'm being my authentic self, and this is hilarious. It's like, no, I'm here to be hilarious. That's it. I'm the Black Carol Burnett of Black YouTube.
Well, all I have to say it is quite a mission, and you are good at it. So
that's
this
my
is
mission. This is Truthful Thursday.
Mission accomplished. So this is Trump says he supports releasing video of alleged drug boat strike. I support the decision to knock out the boats. Dude, they just threw an admiral under the bus. And dude, when you've got the Senate and probably the House will follow, but more than likely it'll just be the Senate. These dudes done fucked up. And they did. I saw the admiral. He's a 4-star. Heading into the hearing. I don't know whether it's public or not. So I'm not that concerned. I think what it will wind up being is Trump as president has immunity granted. It'll all get wrapped up, and he's pardoning people, 2 or 3 people every week. This admiral will be fine. But let's see what CBS has to say. What's up, Kelvin? Oops. Why am I not hearing this? That's not good. Let us see. Let's try doing this. Well, I guess I'll have to read it. I don't know what happened there.
Was the first in what's become a months-long military campaign. Yesterday, both the president and the defense secretary defended the operation during a high-level cabinet meeting, but they also claimed neither were aware or monitoring that situation during perhaps the most controversial moment of the attack. So let us begin with CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi. So we seem to learn more and more about this attack, Olivia, every day. And now it strikes me that the Secretary of Defense is constantly dropping the name of the admiral who carried out, or who was operationally in charge of those strikes. And it does feel as if it's sort of, on one hand, suggesting that he supports this admiral, and on the other hand, sort of throwing him out there.
Well, good morning, Vlad. It's good to see you again this morning. It's certainly notable. There's been a shifting timeline here about this story. First, it was fabricated and not true. Now the White House confirms there was indeed a second strike. And then yesterday, we heard from the president and Secretary Hegseth seated together in that cabinet meeting where President Trump said, one, he didn't even know about the second strike, but two, also defending Hegseth, saying he did not know it was targeting people in the water. Secretary Hegseth then said that Admiral Bradley, who he says carried out the attack, has his full support as he goes through these next round of congressional inquiries about this entire saga on September 2nd that involves several strikes on alleged drug boats coming out of Venezuela. Secretary Hegseth also said he was not sure and did not see any survivors in the water after he witnessed the first strike on this Venezuelan boat due to, quote, the fog of war. But none of this seems to be satisfying the lawmakers on Capitol Hill. They plan to question Admiral Bradley tomorrow. That will be Republicans and Democrats on the Armed Services Committees in both chambers of Congress. And certainly notable that this will be happening because lawmakers have not given any indication to this White House that they are going to authorize action against Venezuela. So just the latest chapter in this ongoing timeline of what has gone on with these strikes regarding Venezuelan alleged drug boats.
Yeah. All right, Olivia, thank you very much. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News senior national security correspondent, Charlie Daggett. So Charlie, the secretary, quote, cited the fog of war, that's the quote, when answering questions about this incident, saying that we, the members of the media, the press, we don't understand what that is. Explain what he means.
Well, first of all, I have to take issue with the fact he continued to say that, when he said the fog of war, when he gets criticized or gets asked difficult questions, he tends to lash out at the media. And he went on to say, you wouldn't understand that from your air-conditioned offices. Well, I, for one, have been covering conflicts for a lot longer than he was ever an active service member, and not from an air-conditioned office. And there are plenty of people in the press corps who have done the field work and know what it's like to try to get this information. The fog of war itself, yes, that's a real thing. But specifically when you're talking about those strikes and whether or not he saw a survivor, like I'm not going to question him on what he saw. But in terms of when the strike took place and where it took place, all of that would have been recorded. We will have information of that. So the fog of war can sometimes be a useful tool. It's when you share that information. What you're seeing there with the unclassified part of it, and there'll be some areas that are fogged out, you're going to have a time code on there. You're going to have a location. You're going to have the number of strikes, when exactly they happened. Because what he was asked is whether he knew, first of all, there were survivors on board, and secondly, when the second strike or strikes happened on that particular craft. And he said he didn't know or didn't remember, or whatever that case was. But the fact that the information does exist, it should be irrefutable. The fact that he may not know about it or wants to share it, well, that's down to him.
Yeah, it should be very interesting too, Charlie, as you know, when that admiral appears before some members of Congress to answer their questions. I hope that we get a readout of that or that the press is invited. And speaking of the relationship between this administration and the press, what do you know about these briefings that have been going on this week with the Pentagon's newly approved press corps? In other words, the press corps that they approve because they like the way that they report on the activities of the Pentagon.
Right. Well, yesterday's briefing that took place with the Pentagon spokesperson, Kingsley, sort of lashed out at legacy media, the media that was there, of which there are probably 70 or 80 individuals. We're talking about us, CNN, ABC, New York Times, pretty much across the board, and some of the military trade publications and magazines too. So it's not just what they would term legacy media, but some of the specialist media that have been covering that, in some cases, for decades. So now we have applied to go to those briefings using a form that the Pentagon has asked us, the DOD has asked us to fill out, specifically stating when we want to go, what we want to cover, et cetera. So we learned that 2 briefings were going to take place. One of them was on camera yesterday, another one today with Defense Secretary Hegseth. That will be a gaggle, so off camera, but on record gaggle. Once again, we have been denied access to that as well. So we're going to have to follow our colleagues inside the building to be able to report on what was said.
All right, Charlie, and Charlie, just for my own personal knowledge, the Pentagon's press person, Kingsley, had she done any in-person briefings on camera up until this moment?
No.
So this was her first in front of a friendly, essentially, press corps.
Handpicked, yes.
Handpicked. All right, Charlie Daggett reporting from our bureau in Washington, where he continues to do the work. Charlie, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I kind of look forward to what's going to happen here. You know, we were talking a couple days ago. I think Hexeth doesn't make it, let's just say past July 4th of next year. I think Bongino and especially Kash Patel, not so sure about Bongino because he's managed to not be in the spotlight that much. Kash Patel, he's gone. After Christmas, I don't see him staying. He's just not like
effective. Yeah.
well, he's not a leader. He is he looks like sometimes something that should be in a Lord of the Rings.
Well, outside of his looks, what we're dealing with, if I do say so myself, is a very devious group of men. And he is not devious. I trust me, I've been around devious people. He's trying to adapt to the environment. However, it's just not in his nature to be devious. So they're gonna cut him loose. Yeah, and as far as that admiral being thrown under the bus because of what Pete did, Pete being the character he is, of course he's gonna throw somebody else under the bus to cover up his deviousness. That's what devious people do,
Right. So, like I was saying, I have no problems with ad hominems. Kash Patel belongs in a Lord of the Rings movie, probably as an extra. So he just doesn't
because of the symmetry of his face. That's why. Okay.
No, I'm not going to be that specific. He just does not strike me as a
leader
cut from leadership cloth. I don't care about the look of his face. I've heard him speak. I've heard him, during the Charlie Kirk thing. He just didn't look like he was that confident. And then he's whisking his girlfriend around and giving her SWAT team protection.
I'm just not familiar with the Lord of the Rings reference, so but I do.
Well, I've actually never read Tolkien. I just know of him. It's not my shtick. I know people who have read. I know Tolkien was an awesome writer. I'm just not that interested in Lord of the Rings. So anyway, let us move on. And you know what? I was supposed something got out of order here. So the Fourth Estate fights back. So it's not like Pete Hegseth was effective at having shit not leak, but the New York Times has decided to sue the Pentagon over First Amendment rights. And what took them so long? So we will listen to this, maybe not all of it.
New York Times sues Pentagon over First Amendment rights. This article is by Eric Wemple and read by an automated voice. The New York Times accused the Pentagon in a lawsuit on Thursday of infringing on the constitutional rights of journalists by imposing a set of new restrictions on reporting about the military. In the suit, filed in the U.S. District Court in Washington, the Times argued that the Defense Department's new policy violated the First Amendment and seeks to restrict journalists' ability to do what journalists have always done: ask questions of government employees and gather information to report stories that take the public beyond official pronouncements. The rules, which went into effect in October, are a stark departure from the previous ones in both length and scope. They require reporters to sign a 21-page form that sets restrictions on journalistic activities, including requests for story tips and inquiries to Pentagon sources. Reporters who don't comply could lose their press passes, and the Pentagon has accorded itself unbridled discretion to enforce the policy as it sees fit, according to the lawsuit. The suit said that reporting any information not approved by department officials could lead to punishment, regardless of whether such news gathering occurs on or off Pentagon grounds, and regardless of whether the information at issue is classified or unclassified. The complaint sought a court order halting enforcement of the rules and a declaration that the provisions, targeting the exercise of First Amendment rights, were unlawful. The Times has retained Theodore J. Boutros, a First Amendment lawyer who has argued major media access cases in federal court. Julian E. Barnes, a Pentagon reporter for The Times, is listed as a plaintiff alongside the company. The Pentagon did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The new rules are the latest step in a months-long effort by Pete Hegseth, the Defense Secretary, to curtail the access and privileges of the Pentagon press corps. Mr. Hegseth arrived at the Pentagon in January after a bruising confirmation process that surfaced allegations of excessive drinking and sexual assault, which he said were untrue. Early in his tenure, Mr. Hegseth proposed evicting from the Pentagon a veteran reporter at NBC News who had contributed to some of the coverage. The department later stripped several national news outlets of their workspaces in the Pentagon, offering them mostly to conservative outlets. Mr. Hegseth has also added limits on where reporters can roam in the complex. A draft of the new restrictions first emerged in September and was revised after pushback from lawyers representing news organizations. The final rules were released on October 6th, and more than a week later, dozens of credentialed journalists, including 6 from The Times, surrendered their badges instead of signing the document. The departing outlets have continued reporting on the military despite the access limits. Many major news organizations released statements in October condemning the Pentagon policy as an incursion on the First Amendment. The policy is without precedent and threatens core journalistic protections, said a statement from ABC News, CBS News, CNN, Fox News Media, and NBC News. In a press briefing on Wednesday, a senior Times lawyer said that there had been discussions with other news organizations about joining the suit, but that the newspaper had decided to proceed alone. The suit took issue with multiple provisions of the new policy, including one that empowered the Pentagon to deem a journalist a security or safety risk. Such a determination could hinge on whether the journalist engaged in unauthorized disclosure of classified information or certain unclassified information, among other considerations. The policy's wording on solicitation has been a particular worry of media lawyers. It asserts that the First Amendment does not protect reporters when they solicit government employees to violate the law by providing confidential government information, and could apply to calls for tips that encourage Defense Department employees to share non-public agency information. Providing channels for sources to send information, the suit said, was a routine practice for journalists. Legal clashes between journalists and the government over access to federal buildings have arisen repeatedly across President Trump's 2 terms. During his first administration, the White House pulled the press passes of 2 White House correspondents. The journalists regained those passes after litigation. This year, the Associated Press sued the government after being excluded from White House press pool events in cramped spaces such as the Oval Office. Litigation challenging that move is ongoing. In each of those cases, the government targeted one journalist or outlet for punishment. The Pentagon restrictions, on the other hand, seek to bind an entire press corps. And those restrictions, the suit argued, would suppress the work of news organizations with perceived viewpoints the department disfavors. After the departure of the legacy press corps, the Pentagon announced that a new group of outlets had agreed to the restrictions and would work from the press space in the building. The new arrivals feature an array of pro-Trump outlets that have echoed administration talking points and show little inclination to investigate its actions.
That's a damn thing. Yeah. This is quite the administration, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. It'll be okay. Sorry about that. I stepped away here. Yeah, it'll be all right. Could be. I think that I've been saying it's gonna be a I told you so New Year's party.
Yeah,
Um,
no doubt.
these fools elected a fucking maniac, and it's a no. It's a we are above the law administration, and that's why I don't get a whole lot of people coming up to this panel, because I look
Right.
forward to eating them alive. They made a bad
Absolutely.
decision. They
And
made a bad decision.
to aid in that regard, in the back chat, I put a video from how can I put this? It's emphasizing what is specifically okay. Every illegal act Trump committed in 2025 so far, and it's a reputable channel, and view it in your
Oh no,
legal.
I've
Have you
heard of
seen it?
I've heard of the channel, but
Yeah,
the thing
that's an
is
amazing channel.
the thing is he literally has immunity. If he can basically say, "Hey, I'm president and I'm doing what I'm doing is
Yeah,
covered under what a president does." He's got immunity.
yeah, yep. And he's taking
So
full
it
advantage of
doesn't
it.
Oh, well, who wouldn't? I would. So yeah, the admiral tells lawmakers there was no kill them all order in a attack that killed drug boat survivors. What'd you expect him to say? No 4-star admiral's going to go, well, oh shit, I did something illegal. So when Hegseth says that, hey, I had another meeting to go to, this admiral's fighting. No, he literally, well, hold on. He literally said that.
Mhm.
So, this admiral is
I was
basically
tripping. I was like, no,
the
he didn't
admiral.
just gaslight the whole fucking country or the
Well, I don't
world.
think it's, hey, we
He's
don't know
lying.
one way or the other, but what's going to happen is it is a Republican Senate. It is a Republican Congress. This admiral will be fine as long as he keeps his mouth shut. He'll be fine.
That's pretty much all he got to do.
Yep. And shit, I've been in the military. Sometimes if you're not asked the question, you don't have to answer it. That's how it works. And by the way, at least in the Navy, we used to call it the long green table. If you fuck up, you might be sitting at one end of the long green table, asking difficult questions. Naval officers, all military officers, and quite a number of civilians, we're prepared for it. Don't answer questions you're not asked, and you will be fine. And by the way, they know which questions to ask. I've been at the end of that long green table at least once. So anyway, FBI arrests suspect in January 6th pipe bomb case. This is going to be interesting. If you remember back during that January 6th, that January, what was it? 2019, January 6th. There were pipe bombs. It was just a crazy time. Oh, wait, hold it. I thought, okay, this is a year afterwards. Okay. So, okay, I didn't hear about this one. So anyway, on December 4, 2025, the Federal Bureau of Investigation arrested a man this Thursday morning in its nearly 5-year-old investigation into pipe bombs. That's the wrong year. January 5th. I guess it's the right year now that I think about it. It's 2025. That's 4 years ago. That's what's kind of got me messed up here. So anyway, on January 5th, 2021, the pipe bombs were placed near the Democratic National Committee and Republican National Committee offices, and investigators struggled to identify the suspect's identity, gender, and motive. At the time of the arrest, no charges or other details were immediately available. And investigators said this is the first suspect identified in the case involving pipe bombs rendered safe that could have been lethal. House Republicans criticized security lapses after the bombs went undetected for 17 hours, while FBI leadership increased personnel reviews and public rewards last month to intensify the investigation. Speaking on condition of anonymity and anonymous, law enforcement official confirmed the arrest as the FBI's January public release included a 5'7" suspect. This is going to be interesting. Now, my bet is they're going to say it was Antifa. That's just going to be my bet. I'm probably wrong, but it just wouldn't surprise me. So, layoff announcements top 1.1 million this year, the most since 2020. Pandemic, Challenger says, and that's Challenger, Gray and Christmas, the headhunter firm. Yeah, Trump has contributed to this unemployment number. And I also want to point out, at least the last time I checked, and it's been maybe a couple months ago, the only unemployment rate that has crept up has been the Black unemployment rate. And I'm not saying why or whatever. I'm not going to do a deeper analysis, but, firing 300,000 Black women, they knew what they were doing. And I'll leave it there. So, videos. And I am going to bore some motherfuckers with these videos. Last couple days, I've actually been delving deeper into what liberalism is. A couple actual philosophers or political philosophers that I've run into over the past, let's just say today's Thursday, last 4 days. And yeah, I'm going down that liberalism, the philosophy of it, rabbit hole. And it'll bore you, but I'm doing it anyway. So good luck with all that. So this is, I guess, more or less an editorial. 18,000 reasons it's so hard to build a chip factory in America. And it is a very long article. But this is going to be the next problem that America's not thinking about. We're going to build chip factories in the desert. chips take a lot of water, if nothing else, for cooling. So look out, folks. We're in the midst of creating another problem.
Is it going
We
to be
just
in New
don't.
Mexico?
This is the one they're talking about is in Arizona.
Oh.
So I'm not going to go into it. If anyone wants the story, I actually have it linked, I think, in the show notes. But this is way out in the desert, and it takes a lot of water to to do an enterprise like this. And stand the fuck by, as we used to say in the Navy. Shit's gonna get rough. So that is that. And this is happening on Trump's watch. So like I said, gonna be interesting. So this video is Books, the original hardware for knowledge, featuring Joel Miller. No idea who he is, but how can I resist this? Books. And I am prepared to go for quite some time. And I you know what? The thing that's so amazing is I get beat up on these black panels. Well, Stanley reads books. This is literally like the 70s, when I was like in second grade. Oh, he's acting white. That's Stanley reads books. He thinks he's better than us. Dude, Nightish said something like that. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Books are not like some secret knowledge that you can't get a hold of. Fucking, they're used bookstores. There are literally books you can get for free online.
Yeah.
Why would you beat up a black man for reading a book?
Because they're degenerate. When it comes to someone being a degenerate, they detest.
Well, how do you define a degenerate?
Someone.
I just call them illiterate isn't the same thing as degenerate.
First of all, someone that has a criminal record. Okay, let's start that off.
Oh, come on now. You can't. Now, you say what you're going to say, but I'm going to have to push back on that one.
Okay, what is it then?
Well,
because
they're prison.
Degenerates have a criminal record. Last I checked.
Well, not all degenerates have prison records and vice versa. Not all people who go to prison are degenerates. But what I was going to say is their prison library. So even a degenerate in prison can read a book.
That's a good case to make. However, what I was told, when you're being in processed, when you're actually going to jail, first and foremost, you're concentrating on your survival in that environment, and that it has nothing to do with going to the library. It's about establishing the whole "don't mess with me" stance. So that takes time. It takes time for people to establish themselves as someone that's not to be messed with. And then once you get acclimated to that environment, then you can explore studying at the library. But initially,
well, thank you for setting up how you get to the library. Apparently, there are steps I wasn't aware of.
I would imagine that what I was told is true. What I was told is that you get processed in, and you gotta you get compartmentalized or categorized. Like, are you with this gang affiliation? And then you have to seek out the protection that that gang provides. Now, God forbid you are not in a gang, then I think at least in Cook County Jail, you're referred to as a neutron, and whatever that means. But I guess it means that you're not gang affiliated. So that's a whole nother situation. And then from jail, you get
well, a neutron is a neutral particle. It's neither positive nor negative.
It's not affiliate. Yeah.
So
In
I
terms
get
of
the
that
reference.
social, yeah, that social dynamic, they label them as neutrons, those who aren't affiliated with the gang. Like, for instance, somebody that has a DUI and they just end up in Cook County Jail. They've never been in a gang. They have no concept of what it is to adapt in that environment. They are labeled, dare I say, a neutron in terms of Cook County Jail. And I'm only saying this because I have a relative and friends of that relative that have espoused these terms. So it was shocking to me. I was like, I didn't know that you all had to go through that. And other unmentionable things. So there's it's an entire situation that you have to go through before you feel settled enough, let's say prison, before you feel settled enough to start exploring educating yourself at the prison library. There's a whole.
So would you recommend educating yourself before you go to incarceration?
I would recommend to not break the law in the first place. That's what I would recommend.
That's even better advice.
Yeah, I would recommend not to break the law in the first place. There are people that, for whatever reason, they step on the toes of the law, and as they say, you find out. I don't know what goes through the mind of somebody experiencing that, but I would imagine that they're experiencing remorse, to say the least. It's like, I really didn't have to rob that liquor store or whatever they do to get in there. I really didn't have to drive drunk or whatever they do to get in there. It's like, I'm sure the intensity of that experience is promoting regret. And so to avoid that regret, just don't break the law. Period. Like, period. I don't care how enraged or tempted one would be, just don't do it. It won't work out so well. I would imagine that anybody that has a criminal record, they, this boastfulness that comes from people who are criminals is like, I've been to jail, and and they're boasting about it. It's like, that's a psychological disorder, man. I would keep that under wraps. Like, I would not say, and fortunately, I don't have that experience. However, in the event that I did, I just would not find it worthy of boasting. Like, I'm just, this whole street cred mentality, I think it's asinine. I think it's fruitless, and it's foolish. It's like, why are you boasting about that? Why, if anything, you should be boasting about character traits that are noble. But
well, I mean, if you don't have those character traits, you got to boast about something. That's what men do.
And that's the sickness. Like, they got to find something.
I don't think it's a sickness. You're bereft. Bereft is a better word. You just don't have much to brag about, so you got to brag about something.
Why do you got to brag about something? Why? Why do people
now
have to brag about something?
I cannot explain it, but I can tell
Is
you
it
that even when I was a little boy, on the schoolyard, St. Mary's Catholic school, even the all black Catholic school, all black kid Catholic school had a a schoolyard, and that's what boys do. And boys do it in general, black boys in particular. And you know what? I miss those days. I used to fucking love getting out there, with the other second graders. The second graders, the third graders, the eighth graders. Dude, we used to after we went to the cafeteria and ate lunch, dude, you were either playing basketball, football, or you were in the yard checking. And it was boys and girls. Dude, it was just the Savannah black culture. And you know what? Very few fights. It was just having a good time. We got 20 minutes before we have to go back to the books. Let's sit here and just you couldn't even call it shitting on each other. It was just a good time. So what's up, man, tomorrow?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. Just reminiscing.
Hey, how's it going?
Loud and clear. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Could you expand on your point about they have nothing else to brag on, so that's what they're doing? Could you expand more on that point?
Yeah, Stanley. Can you tell us
well,
more?
I mean, if you, well, damn. Now I'm nervous. It's if you don't have like, oh hey, I graduated from high school, or oh hey, just accomplishments. If you don't have many accomplishments, I mean,
oh okay, all right.
That's what I meant.
No, that's cool. No, I just want to expand more on the point because I did find that, like, especially like back in like rural Mississippi, man, you really don't have much to brag on.
Yeah. But I mean, the point is, and I think Mel's point was, look, you get in jail, and we were talking about street cred. Well, street cred might be all you have to brag on, or it might be the most important thing to brag on.
But why?
I can tell you why.
I think it's ego driven.
It is ego driven because, like, they want to make the time that they wasted believing in XYZ concept to actually mean something to someone, even if it doesn't mean anything to anyone. Because, okay, so let's say that you went to school, you was in the military, you got out, you went to college, you got a degree, you got a career field. Very legitimate stuff, participating in society. Then you have the non-participation in society of, I sold drugs, I did this, I did all this stuff in the community that was bad. Give me the same relevance as if you would somebody who went after a legitimate career field and everything else. And I'm like, hell no.
Well, but how we entered into this was, I get shit. I mean, I literally, Stanley, he reads books. It is the oddest thing. And, you will hear, at least a while ago, well, this whole thing about, well, he's acting white, or he thinks he's better than us. Just because I went, hey, and not me even specifically, let's elevate it to kind of a prototypical, or, that sort of conversation. It is totally odd to hear someone go, well, we shouldn't listen to him because he reads books. And these are motherfuckers who are like 35 and older. I'm like, what the fuck? If you fix a car, you might read a manual, like the book. What the fuck do these idiots have against books?
No. It's not that. It is participating in society, period. It isn't just books. I mean, it starts at books, then it's voting, and then it's everything else that has to do with societal participation. To them, nothing's going to happen until you solve all of our issues so that way things can be equal before they get started with stuff. I'm like, hey, man, y'all going to be waiting a long-ass time for your style of things to happen. And even though this is something I went, was surrounded by. Like after I became like an adult, man, I was very much dead set of ever even being around people like this because they never really get challenged on the idiotic things that come out of their mouth, and they don't have a pathway to progress or anything else. So I was just like, push back on. Okay, so how does this stuff work, and where have you ever been tried it, and why is it that everybody has to put in all this work while you don't do shit? Type conversation, and they don't want to hear that shit.
But here's the other odd thing. These are some of the same people who will go, black people need to be more like Asians, or black people need to be more like, they read books. The fucking Asians, and, the Jewish community, how the fuck, if you want to be like them, you'll be reading a book or two. Why can't these people just fucking put those two seemingly unconnected dots together?
No, but that's not what they mean, though. But Stanley, that's not what they mean, though. That's I'm telling you, that's not what they mean. What they mean is, why don't you guys go get your shit together collectively, so that way you can hire somebody like me, like the Asian, like the Jews, like the Latinos, and all that kind of shit. They're just trying to benefit.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, that's what it is. Because I've never seen
back room.
That's right.
Room, right?
Yes, and it's like, look, all these other people have figured out how to hire they dumb niggas. Y'all ain't figured it out for us. So get your ass out there, work harder, so that way you can put me on, so that way I can mutiny you out of your own organization. Like, every person who says that shit, normally they don't have their shit together, and they definitely don't have anything to share with any group of people, period. And I've always seen that. Like, oh, why don't we do this, or why don't we do that? I'm like, there is no we here. There is a you. You have to build your own network of connections. And your connections is most likely are just not going to be black for the most part. Because most people, if they don't bring anything to the table, they bring sabotage to the table. So that way, no matter what the concept was, they will come in. Next thing you know,
that part. If they don't have anything to bring to the table, they will bring sabotage.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And the funny thing is the other thing is, sometimes I'm literally flabbergasted. I'm like, well, don't you know? Dude, there is nothing stopping any black person, any black family, any black community. What's the roadblock? You ask,
no. The hard work is beneath them. The hard work is beneath them. They're just here to benefit, dude. Like, once you understand that they're just here to benefit off somebody else's work, and they're not going to put any work by themselves. That's why right now, these kids that I work with, like back home and all this stuff, it used to be maybe like, I'm going to say 10 years ago, before I really started to get into helping these kids out in the actual, like my home state of Mississippi. Maybe 10% of people left town. Now it's 90% of people leave town. We start this conversation early. Now, even earlier, we start the conversation. We start this conversation in King Daughters Hospital. We start this conversation in Delta Regional Medical Center. When you have the kid, when she is in there having the actual child, you have resources. You need to reach out and make sure you are raising the future. We don't care whether there's a man here or not. There are plenty of people here that will give you advice to make sure that you have success. And then over time, the more the corner store walking in, making sure that these kids have that type of masculine figure, that shit erased over 10 years. Everybody's talking about what they're doing once they get out of high school now. Everybody's talking about going to the military or moving in with somebody else or going to get a skill. Dude, we erased the entire culture of bullshit men coming around and trying to fuck up kids and trying to get kids to sell drugs and all this type of stupid shit, right? We went in and we made sure that shit didn't happen, right? We took an active role and made sure that these kids had good outcomes. And dude, it didn't even take that much work. The only thing we did was just engineer the conversation, look around at these people who's talking all this woe is me, oh I can't get shit done shit. Yeah, they still in the city. They know that there ain't no jobs there. They found them a woman to lay under, and now the only thing they want to do is destroy the potential of other people with no experience. And you have to actively go out there and make sure that that shit is not happening.
Yeah, it's astounding how much you are correct about that. It's astounding. It's like that you hit the nail on the head with that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like people think that I'm never doing anything for people. Oh, I do nothing but shit for people. I give them the information very early. Give their parents the information very early, so that way they can figure this shit out. I'm like, look, this shit's for. I'm like, look, we got free busing. That's what the fuck I fought for in Colorado. Free busing for people, black community, blah, blah, blah. Look, you want to take your ass to the library? You got free means to get there. Oh, I didn't know that happened. Like, yeah, we did that 7 years ago. But at the end of the day, I'm coming to you to let you know that there are resources here to get your kid the fuck up out of here. And you too, if you want to be the fuck up out of here. But at minimum, please give your child the best opportunity to make shit happen. And I'm not trying to put it in their face in some rude ass way or nothing like that, like people think I would. But I'm interested in outcomes, and I'm not interested in bullshit whack ass men having any more power than they already have. So I'm taking an active role in erasing these people and erasing the need for these actual surrogate father figures that do nothing but just eat off of black male pain while pretending like they're trying to help them. So I'm actively doing something about it.
Yeah, and that is you might be the only one.
Oh no! I know I'm the only one.
No. I mean, in this online, we'll get 10 motherfuckers up on a panel talking about shit that doesn't even matter.
I mean, but you have to understand though, Stanley. Dumb niggas are not allowed to talk in public nor congregate like that. Like these dumb niggas are across the United States, and there's 8 motherfuckers who's able to do that. They can't go anywhere and be taken seriously by anybody. They have to come online to do that snake ass shit. They cannot go to anybody's community and be like, look, I ain't got my shit together. Can I have full access to your son? Man, that shit'll never fucking happen. Ever happen.
Yeah. Well, we watched through this video, and again, it's gonna be boring, but I gotta show at least a bit of it. Books. I'm whining about being called a book reader. The original hardware for knowledge, dude.
Yeah, but you have to understand that they don't feel like they can compete in the conversation that you're having. Now, rather than just go find other dumb nigga content, which is very easy, by the way, they want you to cross over to what they want. So they want to come mutiny you out of your own shit. Like, yeah, so why don't you just be like everybody else? I'm like, but I don't want to do that.
Well, the problem is I'm literally like, dude, even the shows where, well, let me show you something here. In you know what? I run the risk. It's like every goddamn day. It's like all these people talk about is fucking how it's the same thing every day. It's like men and women, black men betraying black women and passport. And I'm like,
in the middle of the night,
don't y'all
Stanley,
get
yes, up all night.
in the middle of the night, they're talking about women. It's crazy.
During prime women chasing and obtaining sex hours, they're still complaining about women overnight.
Exactly.
Mythical bitches that they ain't even got access to. Still complaining about women.
It's like
crazy.
What the hell? Really? You're not talking about investing in stocks. You're not talking about what organizations you hope to form to enhance communities. Like, you're not talking about that. You're talking about women. Like for real, it's crazy.
Well, I'm not gonna. I don't. I think the men tend to do it more, but dude, if you're in the chat, there's some women. There's some women that are worth comment too. It's like, what in
I've
the
had
hell?
to adapt my persona to accommodate this ignorant bullshit. And quite frankly, it offends
Well,
me.
wait, hold it. I wasn't talking about
She sound like me.
My
You were not. Whoa.
accommodate
I was
trivial
not.
bullshit.
You literally were not in my mind when I said that. I was just talking.
I'm not responding to what you're saying. I'm just speaking.
Well, good.
From my own perspective.
Thank goodness for that.
I'm speaking from my. Oh, okay. I like that. It's my algorithm. Like my algorithm is stuck in stupid bullshit.
I think he's talking about my algorithm.
Well, perhaps they'll specify.
Well, I've known Fred for a while. He is a trusted advisor. He can say it, and I have to take it under advisement. But I mean, I do a lot of politics and stuff, so it's not all about. It's more about because I think I'm still subscribed to Sharon's show, for instance, and Drip's show. And I was on Drip's show. I think it was over the weekend or a week ago. It was late, like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't sleep. And they were talking about something I was interested in. So I like, especially Drip Show. Sharon, I've never been up on that panel, and probably, unless it's something that compels me. So I fuck with a lot of these guys.
Apparently you do.
Well, the thing is I'm, every now and again, I'll go up on a show and we talk about something other than men and
Are
women.
you doing that to promote your channel, or you just want to converse with others?
Dude, this channel doesn't need promotion.
Okay, so you're just interested in conversing with others.
Yes, why wouldn't I be?
That's cool. That's
no,
cool.
dude. This show is
That's not a
the
problem.
kind of
That's
show.
cool.
Dude, people will.
I'm gonna
come
start
here
promoting
and
my
go,
channel more and actually doing exactly what you
As
say.
a matter of fact, put the link to your channel in the back chat. If you, in the event that you have a wrench, if Stanley permits it, put it in the chat room, because I would love to view your channel.
Oh, man of tomorrow? Absolutely. He's
I
got a
haven't
wrench.
spoken with him in eons. Like it's been a
Dude, he's
long
got a
time.
whole show.
So I would love for you to be in my algorithm. I would love that.
But the thing is that more reasonable channels are even like my notifications don't even go out. And my notifications don't even go out to barely none of my people, because most of these people are subscribed to the problematic people within the space, and they made their choice, to try to have both sides of the conversation, and that's just not how it's going to work. And I just made a decision overall to never do that content again. And even if it meant losing the entire audience that I gained, because my audience was gained off of pretty much humiliating and destroying dating coaches, and the stupid individuals who thought that they need failed men's help with dating. That's how I built my channel. And then once I started be like, wait a minute, and then I started looking at the actual algorithm, I'm like, oh, okay, they subscribe to BGS, they subscribe to Rom Wheels, they were subscribed to Obsidian, and it's like, why the fuck are these people asking me for help, but they spend most of their time online with these up all night complaining about bitch ass niggas? So I'm like, look, all right, so this is what we're gonna do now. Okay? You're gonna show me what you subscribe to. You're gonna unsubscribe from this bullshit if you're gonna get my assistance and help. Yeah, you're gonna make a fucking choice. You gonna choose them niggas, or you gonna choose the right way. And look, I haven't had anybody take me up on the offer.
People don't have a right to entertain themselves?
No. They do have a right to entertain themselves, but when they do, but some shit just ain't entertainment.
Okay, I'll put it to you this way.
All right.
Well, anyway, that would insult your intelligence, so I'm not going to do that.
No. Ask your question. I would not want you to not answer your question. You deserve answers to all your questions. Ask it. Doesn't matter if you think it's disrespectful or whatever.
When it comes to what a person would choose for entertainment, it can be off-putting to someone else. And in that regard, I will ask you this question. Is it possible that your intention is to collect serious-minded people?
Yes.
As a whole, okay, that's what I was looking for. It's like, so
yes, who's ready to go right now? Not eventually.
I'm not going to conduct a channel, an active channel, a consistent channel with people who aren't serious.
Correct.
I'm not here for entertainment. That's what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah. That's specifically and exactly what I'm saying.
If you put the link out, like to join the panel, you want to make sure that those people are serious, as opposed to, hey, I just came up here to entertain folks.
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad we got this straight. That's cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because you have to
view your content nonetheless.
No. It's fine. It's just that what people need to understand that there is time for serious shit. I am a serious person. I spend a lot of time on what I do. Like right now, I'm even at work now. I mean, I work a lot, a fucking lot. And I care about shit actually being fixed and changed. And I don't think like educated.
Background sounds like you're productive.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, so I'm just trying to be like, look, we can do both. Like me. Like my whole like first 7 years of my channel, I did every single live stream while driving. Anytime you saw me actually at home, that's when I was at home. Other than that, I was out driving every single live stream. Yeah, so it's like I want to do this and something else at the same time, you know. And I want people to find time to be serious about fixing their shit, because this stuff is even easier now to fix than it ever has been.
How's that?
No, I mean right now, the effort can put you places. Like you're not stuck in cities like you were 10, 15 years ago. You're not. You can move now. You can move away from shit now. You could go obtain skills now. You can go get a new job now. But the thing is like things have gotten easier, but the fight and people have left. That's the actual issue.
Okay, thanks for saying that. Let's read this comment. My algo, otherwise known as algorithm, go from Tommy Sotomayor to a dude riding his bike around Tokyo to a chick doing street photography in Dresden to PBS history docs to Dr. Ben lectures. I understand the variety, the interest in variety. I can relate to what you're stating. In this comment, I can relate to that because I'm
Fred, you
subscribed
have to know,
everybody. I'm subscribed to channels that don't speak English. Okay.
Well,
I'm subscribed to everybody.
Fred doesn't get mad when I say he's eclectic. He has a wide variety of interests.
I am as well.
And,
very eclectic.
And he can tie a full Windsor knot in his tie.
What?
As well as I. Yes.
I bet that motherfucker. And I know he can tie a bow tie.
Yeah, a bow tie and a Windsor knot. Yes, I can.
We've known each other for a while, so he is
I'm a compliment to a man because I will make a man look good.
He is quite the intellect, and sometimes my principal advisor up on this bitch. This wandered into my algorithm. Speaking of algorithms, and it's from Atlanta. Aging While Black. I got
what?
I was gonna do a boring book thing, and it's a whole channel here. Aging While Black. I've got to subscribe. So let's see what it's about. It might be cool, it might not be, but how can I not listen to this? Because I'm aging and black.
You know what's
Let's skip ahead
Stanley?
here. Mhm.
The color of the cover is not by accident. I just want to say that.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
do tell. What's
Colors matter when it comes
you
to
mean the
captivating.
green, the yellow?
The yellow
Well,
being the
actually,
primary.
the
The
green,
most
red, and
outstanding
black.
color we're looking
What do
at
you think
is
the What do
yellow.
you think the green, red, and black mean? Does it
That's
remind you of something?
Afrocentric in nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
However, the yellow, right? Let's not forget that yellow is a very eye-catching color.
Right.
Like say for instance, if this was a black and gold cover, it
It looks very kente clothy.
yeah, it has some primary colors that are interesting.
Which,
I guess what
that
I'm
Asian
emphasizing,
wild black, you want to kind of do some
what I'm
traditional
emphasizing
colors
is
on
that
it.
we'd be surprised how people who claim that they're interested in the title of a book, they are first captivated by the design of the cover of the book. You know, it's like the colors pop.
Well, tell us the
I'm not an expert in
the
that.
symbol.
I just
I've seen. Well, Fred probably is. He's actually learned in this sort of
and
stuff.
I am not.
So I've seen the symbol before. Fred, remind us. And perfect book for Stan. Well, yeah,
Absolutely.
that's why I'm looking at it. I'm an old black man, sir.
Okay, I'm really interested in this
Well,
video
Fred will
you're about to
respond.
share with us.
Well, let us hear. Oh, by the way, I did not know this before last Sunday. Apparently, Ebenezer Baptist in Atlanta, they do online services. So might have to do that
Really?
this coming Sunday. Yeah, I had no clue. I don't know whether it's new.
That's
Fred might know.
MLK's
Yeah,
church for people that aren't aware of
yeah,
it.
and Senator what's his name?
Warnock.
Is the Warnock? Yeah, Raphael Warnock. He's from Savannah, by the way. Um, I've never met him. He's quite a bit younger, but I know exactly, where he grew up, and I think it's been demolished. The other
Stanley,
odd
before you
thing.
start, I want to ask you a question. Do you think I'm
Who, me?
ghetto? Do you think my persona is ghetto online? Okay,
I
you
wouldn't
pause.
say
No need to
ghetto.
answer. You
I
pause.
would.
No problem.
Well, dude, sometimes I'm slow. This Southern accent.
Well, you are
Not
aging while black.
not exactly ghetto, but I mean, it's almost like I get hints of ghetto, but I do also get hints of trying not to be ghetto. How about that?
I'm
You're
eccentric.
moving on up.
I'm eccentric.
Okay,
And I'm
that
grateful
works.
that you announced that you consider me sophisticated.
Yes.
And I was just wondering if you forgot that you announced that you've considered that I'm sophisticated.
Well, do I have to like record it and put it on like a loop so
No,
it
I just
repeats
wanted
every?
to capture your thoughts before you play the video. That's all.
I remember what I said, and apparently you remember what I said too.
Yeah, and now I'm pseudo ghetto. Okay. So which is it? I'm
You know what?
sophisticated or I'm pseudo ghetto?
Aren't we all?
Yeah, I'm multifaceted. I'm eccentric.
That's
I'm
exactly what I meant. See,
I'm
I
everything.
knew your self-description would be a lot more detailed than mine.
Thanks for listening, Stanley.
to continue that lineage. We are here to listen, to
Uh-oh,
reflect,
don't tell
and
me
to
the
imagine
volume is
together what
bad.
it means for Black elders to not only
God damn
age,
it, it is
but to
bad.
lead, to thrive,
Can y'all
and
hear
to
that
fulfill this
okay?
team in a society
No, it's
that
very low.
often
Not
Well, at least it
really.
is for me.
this conversation is a part of
Yeah,
Yes.
it's low for me too. Everyone try and turn up your volume. I'm disappointed.
Is there closed captioning so we can read what they're
Could be.
doing?
But you can
Yep, there
turn
you go.
yours up. No, just go to audio and fix the actual, uncheck the checkbox marks that is automatically volume, and you can turn up your own volume
We are grateful
that
for
way.
their leadership.
Oh wait, hold it. You're gonna have to walk me through this. I've never done it. Let me stop it. You mean in
StreamYard?
In StreamYard?
Yes.
Ooh. Go to settings.
Yes. And then audio.
Okay, and then
You should see a line that will extend.
there's mic volume.
Yes,
Was
press
it
that.
Yes.
Really?
And then extend the line to its fullest capacity or somewhat.
To the right. Yeah, it's to the right.
Oh wow.
It-
Okay,
it's
let's
going to be
try
in
it.
clear, and now it's going to be in orange or red, or at least it's orange on my computer.
Mine's is blue.
Well, you know what? Let's
That's
do
why we
this. I'm
sound
not
so loud.
sure.
Stanley. We figured it out
Can
already.
y'all probably can't see it.
No, do your
Now I'm
thing.
talking. Now this is mic volume.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's playing
Okay,
through
well,
your microphone.
It's
Yeah, the
playing.
sound
Yeah,
is playing.
StreamYards is playing for you.
Okay. Well,
You get it?
let's try it.
All right, there you go. I'm glad you learned something.
Is that
Cool.
better?
Extraordinary leaders whose work continues to shift narratives and expand
No.
what is
No, I can't. Yeah.
First, I am going to welcome my partner
All
in
right.
change and author of Aging
Well,
While Black.
let's see. Audio,
A
camera.
lifelong public servant,
God damn it!
former pastor of 26
This is
years,
disappointing.
a visionary leader
It's
dedicated
all right.
Now, what I may do, you know what? What I'll do is just download it and run it through OBS and see if I can fix it that way.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I've done it before. God damn it. Now, see, this is disappointing. I actually wanted to hear this.
building thriving communities. Almost 3
As a
years
matter of
ago,
fact,
Stanley
it
and I
seems
launched
lower.
Aging While Black,
So,
a
anyway,
movement committed to
well,
transforming
I will fix this because I'm very interested in what they might have to say about aging.
in America.
Okay. It's called Aging
Yep.
While Black. All right.
Yep. And maybe what I'll do is see if it's on X as well. Let's see here. Let's see if they have it on
It's
the platform.
titled Aging While Black.
Instagram maybe? So it is something that's out on Instagram. Let's see what we got here. I like his bow ties. Let's see, can I find that exact video? Yeah, okay. Well, apparently he's done something at Ebenezer Baptist Church. And I promise I won't bore everyone with all this because I'm not real adept at I have Instagram and that's about it.
I put something in the back chat hoping that
Black elders. I was in one meeting and the statement was made that Black elders matter. We matter.
Yes, we do.
Matter, and that
That's a good video. Yeah.
that epiphany almost for people for 50 to 60 Black
Thank you,
folks
Fred.
all over the age of 60 in a room,
Sankofa,
that my
that's
voice
it.
still matters, not just to say what I want, but to benefit my community and those who are part of mine. And so I think a really important shift is, how do we begin to position older Black people so that their voices are heard and that they influence the decisions we make, the programming that we initiate. And so I think that that's an important shift. Black elders, I was in one meeting and the statement was made that Black elders matter. We matter. You know, what we think matter, and that revelation, that epiphany almost for people for 50 to 60 Black folks all over the age of 60 in a room, that my voice still matters, not just to say what I want, but to benefit my community.
Sorry about that.
And those who are part of mine. And so I think a really important shift is, how do we begin to position older Black people so that their voices are heard and that they influence the decisions we make, the programming that we initiate. And so I think that that's an important shift. Black elders, I was in one meeting and the statement was made.
That's repeat. That's interesting. You know what? This actually sounds like actually interesting. Huh. You know what? Let's do this. Because there's more than one on this
I got a
channel.
phone call, man. I'll be back in a little bit later, all right?
Okay. Yeah, you know what? I go down, I do rabbit holes apparently. Let's see what we got here. Let's see if the volume's better on this one. Yeah, this volume's low too. Uh-oh.
On behalf of my generation, I want to begin by saying, boy, have we messed up in a lot of instances. But by the same token, there are a lot of contributions that are the result of our lived experience. Absolutely. And it would be a tragedy for all of that to be lost. And so I'm even more enthusiastic, Samaji, to have this conversation tonight because it's kind of hard to be a baby boomer over the last few years and not be hit with some of the stray shots and intended shots.
Yeah, I can see that. And speaking as a millennial who interacts with those above and below me, boomers do get a bad rap. Some of it isn't exactly, a lot of it I don't think it's anyone's fault, right? I think when we talk about like fault, responsibility, what we were taught, what we're not taught,
different.
I was doing the best they could with the information they had at the time. I do think millennials are in a very unique position in that we have been experiencing unprecedented this and that since we got here. And a lot of us followed the blueprint that boomers told us to follow. And now here we are, big grown adults, and we have our big grown jobs and our big grown degrees, and it's not exactly panning out. And so I think that's where something that
Well, see, that's the oddest thing.
I differ.
So it's not panning out, so you want to blame the advice you were given? Dude, that's the stupidest critique. And she's not actually saying that. She's quoting, kind of the what's out in the ether. But dude, if you get advice and you follow it and you realize it's bad advice, well, drop the advice and come up with a new plan. What the fuck? Dude, stop blaming every goddamn thing on the boomers. Dude, it's your personal fuck up. And if the advice was bad, dude, I don't know how many times when I was in the military or I was, in some job somewhere, the advice you get is literally advice. Otherwise, they call it a blueprint or instructions or standard operating procedure. What the fuck is wrong with these idiots? And you know what? Until she just articulated it, because I get a lot of, well, the boomers fucked us up. The boomers, dude, if you're fucking not 18, stop blaming your parents' bad advice. Come up with a new plan.
Hate mail comes from, but we'll get we'll get into that later.
My mother-in-law, she's into the blame game. She
Well,
was.
who is she blaming? Is she blaming the silent generation?
She was blaming her mother for not teaching her how to cook a meal, and it was really pitiful to witness, or rather hear her say that out loud. It's one thing to have these thoughts ruminating. It's another thing to just blame your dysfunction on a parent when you are over 18. It's like once you are of age, at some point you have to explore what it is you can do for yourself. And to blame your parents for not teaching you something is absolutely absurd. It's absurd. And that's where the baby boomer blame game comes from. People want to announce a responsibility for their ill preparedness, or rather, I should say, lack of ambition for their wellness. It's like since I have this lack of ambition, somebody's got to be blamed for it, and that's the baby boomer blame game that's happening. So I appreciate this video because it's exploring the baby boomer blame game that's giving people an excuse to be mediocre and inadequate. It's like, own up to the fact that you have to provide.
It's not an excuse. Look, there have been plenty of times where, I'm sitting down to approach some technical problem. Say, I hate to use this specific example because it's kind of just, a weird example. But years ago, the PGA, the Pro Golf Tour, PGA Association, they had a bunch of databases. Well, their front end was not connecting back to their databases. And there were several databases. And no one could fucking figure out what the problem was. And I was brand new at this job. I'd maybe been there 6 months. So, of course, they assigned it to me. So I had fucked with this all goddamn night, trying to figure it out. And I was getting advice like, oh, maybe the databases, there's a setting in the database that will tell the database to isolate itself and it won't communicate outside of a direct interface. It was just all this advice. You need to look at this, you need to look at that, you need to go through this procedure or that procedure. And you know what? None of this shit was working. So, you know what? I was sitting there And I'm like, well, you know what? I tried every goddamn thing else. I'm just going to go into the registry. You know, back then it was easy to access the Windows registry. And this is like you fuck up the registry and you might as well just put a new OS on the computer. If you fuck it up, unless you can remember exactly how you fucked it up, it's done. That computer is toast. You literally have to start from scratch, which means you lose all your data. You just fucked it up. So, but there is an indirect way to deal in a computer's registry how the OS talks to the database. And it's a simple thing. You can do it. A kid could do it. And I just said, well, you know what? Let's just try it. And the shit worked. And there were like 20 different databases. And this particular server, the registry had corrupted. So all I had to do was go in and rebuild 20 different, they're called ODBC connectors. You can literally do each in like 1 minute. So the next day I come in and I go, problem fixed. And everybody was like, how the fuck did you do it? And the PGA was kind of a major client. And you know what? Of course, I have to make some stupid joke. I'm like, I stopped following your advice and fucking thought for myself. So all these old ass motherfuckers, we're not talking 21-year-olds complaining about the boomers. We're talking 40-plus-year-olds wanting to blame everything on the goddamn boomers. Well, how about stop following the advice if it's not working out and come up with your own plan? Dude, you will not get a sympathetic ear with this, oh, blame it on the boomers. The boomers fucked it up. Bullshit. You're fucking it up. And if you know the advice isn't working, stop following the advice and either go to another source for advice or fucking think like a 40-year-old and come up with your own shit. Dude, the next person to come into my chat or on my panel and they say the word boomer, as in you want to blame some shit, I'm just going to unload and call you a fuck up and bounce you from the channel. Stop blaming shit on your parents and your grandparents if you're over 40 especially. So sorry, I was on my soapbox there.
And it's a valid expression that you're making. Valid. Very valid. A lot of people don't want to admit that they're a, as you say, F up. And it's easier for them to blame it on, their caregivers. It's
They're
really
caregivers. Dude, if you're 40, your parents better not be caring for you unless you're
I'm
sick
talking about the
No.
caregivers
I'm
of the
talking
youth.
all these, none of, and I'm thinking of people who are up on these panels, and we see them day in and day out, in this particular sector of YouTube. These motherfuckers will get up there smoking weed. Dude, if you're on a fucking panel and you're smoking weed, complaining about the boomers, how fucked up is that?
Yeah.
It's like your ass is on a YouTube panel at fucking 11 o'clock at night complaining about your parents and grandparents while you're fucking drunk and smoking weed. I suggest that your parents don't know that you're doing this, and they would probably be horrified. What's up, Tyrone? Where you been? I haven't seen you in a bit. Hit the link, bitch, so I can so bring that boomer shit up here. Yeah, y'all stop blaming if you're over fucking 40 and you're still talking about the bad advice grandpa gave you, I suggest you're the fuck up, not your grandpa.
Aging is something that you talk about later in life, right? When you get close to retirement, when you get your AARP card in the mail, when you're getting ready to hang it up. But you believe that aging is a conversation that we should be having much sooner than that. Tell me your thoughts on aging and why we should be having it continually.
So, Samaji, I say this very often. There's this brilliant sister in Atlanta who remarked to me that aging is a verb. And that just landed with me in a way. It is happening with all of us all of the time, as long as we are breathing, as long as we are alive. I want to get a T-shirt that has aging and then the equal sign with the line through it and say a number, because it's not a number. And it is so very important that we understand, especially your generation and those who are following yours, to recognize that it's not something that happens to me later in life.
Yeah.
That I am aging along the way. And so every policy that is made, every decision that I make, every barrier or opportunity that is encountered along the way shapes our aging journey. I had an interesting conversation on AWB Live with Ronaldo Hardy that was focused on, why 40 hits so hard or why 40 hits so differently. And it's really important that we recognize, I was listening to a presentation on this longitudinal study on the importance of companionship and well-being later in life. And the person talked about the importance of these long-term relationships and other things at age 70 and 80. But he said the significance of them is that they need to start being developed at 30, 40, and 50 to have benefit. And so not only the opportunities and barriers, but the systemic inequities, whether it's in healthcare, education, housing, or income, they start early. You talked about your generation having the once in a generation set of experiences, stuff that has never been seen before. All of these impact what older age looks like.
Yeah.
I write about it in the book in the last chapter, as a matter of fact, when I write about all of the generations needing to work together, that aging while Black is actually a collective and intergenerational experience.
Hey, I have a question. And this is really for all the people in the chat and for you too, Mela. How old were you when you realized that not everything your parents said was like, a blueprint?
31.
Really? I realized that when I was a fucking teenager.
I joined the military, of course, at 19. However, with what I perceived to be somebody else's fault stopped at 31. You
Okay, well, here's the deal. Your parents aren't always there. Even when you're in high school, sometimes when you're a teenager, you don't even go to your parents because I know they're going to give bad advice. They have no clue what I'm going through. I might have to figure this shit out for myself.
Yeah,
or talk to someone. So this whole advice,
I had that mentality, but it wasn't concrete. And it's like I had that mentality at 19, of course, because I wasn't endorsed to join the military. there was no endorsement for me to do that. So that was thinking on my own, of course. However, that doesn't discount the fact that along the way that I had some pause in thought as to how more effective I would be, if my mother was this way or my father was that way, So that's why I use the word pause, because there was a pause between 19 and 31 where, although I was making my own independent decisions for my well-being and prosperity, along the way, that's the pause to 31, I was still subconsciously blaming my parents for not gifting me with this so-called mystery wisdom. I dropped that disillusionment at 31. That's when I dropped it. I thought for myself, but I still had that baggage of disillusionment until I was 31. That's
okay. And maybe some people don't exactly understand what the definition of advice is. Advice is not a blueprint. Advice is literally not a roadmap. Do this and that might happen. Dude, the whole process of growing up, when you realize as a teenager, hopefully, that your parents are fallible, that, sometimes the way they describe or what they advise doesn't work. That's part of the growing up process. Credible advice, Fred, is not a magic bullet. You trust the people, and shit, it might be good advice.
I discovered at 31.
Okay, let me finish, please.
Of course.
Credible advice doesn't mean there's really things change. The advice that your parents give you on driving a car, for instance, if they learned to drive when they were 15 and all of a sudden they're advising you when you're 15 about some technical point about driving a car, well, what if the law changed and they're not aware of it? Dude, stop acting like advice is literally cut and dry. This is how it's gonna get. It's like connect the dots. Advice is advice. That's all it is. It's not gospel. It's advice.
You know what?
Incredible advice. Dude, what does it matter? Credible advice, bad advice, none of it is set in stone. That's why it's called advice. And all these dumb bunnies who want to get up here and blame, oh, it's the boomers' fault. They gave me bad advice. Fuck all that. Dude, if you are fucking over 40, why are you still whining about advice when you're 40 goddamn years old?
Because
that to me is weird. You're whining about the boomers and your kids have kids. Some of these motherfuckers are grandparents at 50.
They're on drugs.
Stop whining about the boomers. Be a grandpa.
They're on drugs, Stanley.
I don't give a fuck.
Apparently not, but
no, I seriously don't give a fuck. And by the way, don't listen to my advice. I'm just some voice on a YouTube panel. Please don't follow my advice. And I'm still going to give it. Dude, I give my son advice all the time. And I am under no pretense, once he is back at school, dude, here's what I think. Here's what I would do. But dude, by no means do I expect him to act like, well, daddy would do it. Motherfucker, that's why I raised you, to judge whether it's something you should do or not. The fuck? And that parent, I will say, when my son fucks something up, I'm like, well, why didn't you follow my advice? Of course I'm going to say that. It's of course I'm going to go, well, you idiot, you didn't follow my advice. But in the end, it's his decision whether to follow it or not. And what if he comes up with something better? What if my advice is trash given the immediate situation? He renders a judgment saying, this is trash advice. I'm going to try it this way. And he's wildly successful. Well, my reaction is going to be, well, God damn, I'm glad you didn't listen to me. Dude, if you're 40 plus and you're whining about boomers on a motherfucking YouTube panel, you are literally a fucking back asswards country fuck. And I'll stop harping on it because I'm repeating myself. Taking all my advice from CT's channel. Yeah, CT has some interesting advice. When doesn't he? And the advice I'm going to give you is y'all need to read more books, God damn it. You can take that advice or not. So we're Raymond A. Jetson. His name is Jetson? Oh, no way. That's got to be a joke.
Because, you know, your generation doesn't have pensions, but you have student debt. You also have the the financial crisis of 2008, 2009. The generation behind you has even more student debt. They're an extreme unlikelihood.
Again, this is like idiotic. What the fuck does student debt have to do with anything? If you are telling your kids to take out $100,000 to go to some college that they won't graduate from, yeah, that's bad advice.
Good that Social Security, as we know it today, will have any real impact or relevance on their life. And so while the names of the factors change, the realities is that there are systemic and structural issues that impact our lives and compound over time. And that waiting until we get older to understand that and address it is, in my opinion, too late.
I couldn't agree more. And you said something. Let me just ask, do you think society as it's set up today is set up with aging in mind or aging populations in mind? Or is it that, is it a case
you know what?
down the road by virtue?
I definitely appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the show. Dirty dude. And you know what? Everybody, please make sure you hit the like button. And if you are new here, please make sure you subscribe to the show. Check it out. I will go off on my weird rants about nothing much at all. But do share out the channel. We will be monetized, or at least have the opportunity to be monetized one of these days. Hopefully in the nearer term rather than a 5-year plan. Let's see what else. If there is a Saturday show, it's just going to be an extension of kind of the rabbit hole I'm in, looking at conservatism, the intellectual underpinnings of MAGA, which might be an oxymoron. There is almost like a Star Wars thing. It's the only analogy I can think. The Force Awakens. You're starting to see some of these liberalism experts, like the John Rawls fans, starting to kind of awaken from their slumber. MAGA's in for a rough ride because it's failing. And there's still 3 years left. Trump is literally below 40% in approval ratings. So, stand the fuck by, as we used to say in the Navy. It's going to be a rough ride. And again, Dirty Dude, let me modify this and support the show. The Sovereign Beer Fund is always open for investment, but there are other things that have to be paid for as well. Things like newspaper subscriptions, and actually I've got a couple YouTube shows, one a history show, one a cooking show that I actually subscribe to. So the money doesn't all go for inebriants. You were saying something, Mela?
I was just asking if you have a brand of beer that you prefer.
Just my everyday, kind of like everybody has their everyday cooking oil, and you use that expensive olive oil for like the special dishes. These days, it used to be Bud Light, but I found I like Coors Light better. Who knew? So that's my, my beer, and then on weekends I'll splurge and get, Guinness Stout. Nobody seems to sell Bass.
You were a Guinness guy. Okay, all right. I thought you were a Guinness person. Yeah,
I am a Guinness person, but it's heavy and expensive, and Coors Light. Coors Light is like it's like the McDonald's of beers.
My gal pals, they like Blue Moon. I'm not a beer person,
yeah, it's
but
an
my
IP.
gal pals, they like Blue Moon for some
It's a pale ale. It's like an Indian pale ale. Oh yeah, I've had it before.
Yeah, beer. It's not my thing, but my gal pals, they like Blue Moon. They do. The brothers, the veteran brothers, they like.
Okay, Fred. Literally, I don't know who the y'all is you're talking about. My parents never told me any of that shit. So that y'all thing, that's a gross generalization. A lot of it was not black people saying that. So I'm sorry, you and I will disagree on. Well, number one, define who y'all is.
I wish he would come on.
By the way, while I'm thinking about it,
I wish he would come on.
Can you hold on one second? This boomer bullshit is sheer folly. Black people who are in the boomer generation had a totally different experience than white boomers. Okay, lumping them in the same category is problematic in the first place. Okay, it might have been white boomers telling that to their kids. You might have seen it on TV or some bullshit, but I literally, I don't ever remember my parents saying, you have to do this and you have to. My parents never gave me that advice. So might want to tighten up that argument. Again, this blame it all on the boomers thing. White boomers didn't have the same experience than black people in that boomer generation. A lot of the black boomers in the South fucking lived in Jim Crow. That in and of itself disqualifies them for being a quote boomer, in my opinion. How many boomers went through Jim Crow? To me, it's a trash argument,
Black
to be
culture
honest.
and I guess at a larger scope, Western culture, Western society is set up. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
I went to college because
two things.
Fred, I went to college because I got scholarships. I literally came out of college and didn't owe a goddamn dime. Had I not been able to pay for college, I'm sure my parents would have advised me to do something else. I, for instance, told my son, dude, we're poor. You have the ability to scholarship your way through it. And lo and behold, he did. Okay, stop blaming. Now, I will say that, it's a parenting problem that kids are going out and taking these six-figure loans. Parents should be dead set against that. But my parents, honestly, they never said, Stanley, you have to go to college. Dude, I'm a bookworm. What else was I going to do? I could have gone into the military. That would have been the option, but my parents never said you got to go to college. You won't do well if you don't go to college. Nope. My father never graduated from college. Why the fuck would he tell me that? And he did just perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, he's not poor. He never went to college. Why the fuck would I think that? He was doing well. He's always done well. Boomers. I don't even call black people in the boomer generation boomers. I think a bunch of dumb fucking black kids who were literally living the miseducation of the Negro, and either their parents weren't smart enough to figure out, hey, you're heading down the wrong road, or they were just bad schools. But when they get up on these panels and start making all these sociological, like, dude, that's just talk about being white. It is literally being white to blame your parents and calling them boomers. That's white boy shit. That's Karen shit. That's why I don't go up on a lot of these panels, because they sound like fucking morons.
That are responsive to the questions that you ask me. First, I believe that society is set up as if aging is a race-neutral experience, that it is a universally shared experience, that we are all aging and we all age the same way.
Okay.
Well, aging is not race-neutral. Aging is also not gender neutral. Aging is not You hear what the man said? Aging is not race neutral. Now, this motherfucker actually understands what it's like. Aging, boomerism, it's not race neutral. Brilliant point, Mr. Jetson. Graphically neutral. Aging is not sexual identity neutral. All of these factors conspire together to impact how we age. But the aging ecosystem, those providers of services, policymakers, academicians, gerontologists, all of much of the aging ecosystem is built around a narrative that does not apply to Black culture and our lived experience. And, when you start adding to that being Black female and aging, or Black with HIV and aging, Black and queer and aging, when you start adding all of these intersections together, the system is not set up to address. But beyond that, Samaji, there are systems and structures in place that systemically either punish, oppress, or inhibit access to opportunity for Black folks along the lifeline. And one of the theories of gerontology, one of the few that I know, and one of the ones that really stuck with me in my research is the fact that disadvantage and advantage are cumulative. And so if you start from a place of advantage, that accumulates over time. And by the time you reach old age, the gap is widened. The same is true for disadvantage. It compounds, it accumulates over time. And by the time you reach old age, the impact of that disadvantage is even more dramatic. And that's the reality of aging in America. And it's not the narrative nor the systemic response that is in place.
I think many things in our culture, in American culture, stem from individualism, right? But when I think of aging, I think of community. Like that's one of the words that come to mind when I think of aging, because I think more than any other time in your life, maybe, and maybe that's not true, but particularly as you're aging, I think you need people. But I think in America, we are taught to be this rugged individual up until a certain point. But if you're not investing in that community before then, where is it when you need it? If that makes sense, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that is why, Samaji, the first pillar of aging while Black is recalibrate the village. I write and I talk often about my great-grandparents. I grew up next door to them for the first 11 and a half years of my life. And both of my great-grandparents died in their homes, in their beds. Well, my great-grandmother at 98, my great-grandfather in his early 90s, I believe. He had been sick for a bit, but they lived where they lived and they thrived until late in life because of the village that was around them. Yeah. Yes, it was family, but it was also neighbors, it was friends, it was church members, it was, social connections. They were all part of this village. And so the first pillar of aging while Black is recalibrate, because the village as it is constructed today is ill-equipped for the huge sea change in the number of aging Black people who've already started to show up in our communities. But you are correct. That has to be an intentional effort that is about people. And I believe, and put forth the argument in the book, that the families around aging Black people, who's all of us, need to be mindful of this village and who are the components of that village throughout the life cycle.
So digging deeper into this idea of community, right? We, you and I, and people in our sphere, we talk about elders as like these receptacles for wisdom, right? As these places and these change makers, these wisdom keepers. How can young people draw from their experiences to continue to build quality community into the future?
So I think that it starts with a matter of perspective and how we envision one another. And you will hear me talk about one another quite a bit, because I believe, as a matter of fact, in the book, rewrite when talking about this wisdom sharing, the notion of reciprocal wisdom sharing, that this thing has to go in both directions. But how we understand one another and the perspective with which we come to the relationship is important. And so I would encourage my younger brothers and sisters and those who are of the generations that will come behind to see older Black people as living archives. We are holders of memory, of strategy, some good, some bad, cultural insight. You know, we are innovators, organizers, community builders. You know, that many of the institutions that have served us for decades are the product of the mind and spirit of older Black people. Absolutely. A number of the things that we take for granted and are quick to discard were in fact dramatic innovations that come from the mind and spirit of older Black people now. And so it's important to see these people through a different perspective, a different lens, and to begin to be curious and inquisitive. How can we draw from the lived experience of those who have come before me to understand how to lead with purpose, how to persevere with cultural identity, how to create change, and how to avoid some of the pitfalls that my generation stepped into. And these aren't kind of abstract theories. These are real, practical, hard-won, and deeply rooted in the love for our community. And so listening and partnering with older Black folks in our community strengthens our ability to collectively build together and to make certain that our communities are ready for the future.
Absolutely. As you were talking, and I'm going to come to your question in the chat, and that's a great question to kind of continue the conversation. But as you were talking, I have the privilege of working in politics, as you know, and I'm often frustrated by young people who are not as active in the process as I want them to be, who have their phone in their hand all the time, have access to the information about what's happening, but don't feel the need to engage. And I'm like, how can they know the struggle? How can they know what was done for us and still not care enough to be moved enough to do? And one day it hit me. I don't think enough of us young people are sitting at the feet and hearing the stories, right? Like I was blessed to be able to sit at the feet of my great aunts, my great grandmothers, my great grandfather, and hear like how they grew up and the struggle that they had to endure in order for us to be where we are today. But so many young people either don't or didn't have the opportunity to. And so it's lost on them why it's important for them to now execute and continue to the movement forward, right? That forward movement. And so when you talk about being a receptacle of wisdom, I'm able now to sit with my friends and we're in the Dallas, in the Young Democratic Party here in Dallas, and we're trying to strategize, okay, how do we help, our state reps who are doing this great work? Well, let's call some of our elders and see what they did back in Quorum Break in '94 and what they did and how they were helpful. And that's literally what we were able to do in real time. But okay, and now we have different tools that they didn't have. So how can we enhance what they did? And so that's just so helpful. And it's honestly incumbent upon us too. I think otherwise we're just spinning our wheels. And so to the question in the chat, and you sort of already answered this, but it was, we used to know our neighbors, which we did. We were just talking about community. So how can we rebuild with each other when we don't trust or know each other?
So a couple of things. First of all, thanks for the question. But I want to touch on something that you were saying as we were leaving this part of the conversation, Samaji, about the reaching out real time to elders to understand their journey. That I think I used the language in the book that it is a great disservice to understand the ancestral guidance of the elders as recounting tales from the past. They are guideposts for the future.
Ooh.
And the example that you used is,
is that
Defense Exhibit A.
Yeah.
That This is valuable information. Is it perfect? No. But are there things that we could take from it to help build strategies and directions for the future? As it relates to community, the thing that we stress, that I stress in the book, is the importance of conversations. Intentional conversations, curated conversations, designed conversations. But unless we start to talk to one another, amongst family, amongst neighborhoods, amongst congregations, amongst organizations, we can't truly be a village. But the hard work in that statement is not lost on me, because in so many families and in so many communities and in so many institutions, there is trauma, there's abuse, there is estrangement that has lingered and festered in so many instances. There is this widening gap between the supposed haves and the supposed have-nots in our communities and in our cultures. So I say these words recognizing that they are hard work, but hard work is what we have to do at this point. If we are going to build the village, we're going to have to work through some of these issues. There's a sister on the East Coast, I want to say in the Carolinas, or maybe it's in the DMV, who has an initiative that she is piloting that's called Relationship Before Caregiving. And what it seeks to speak to is the number of instances where people are being summoned to be caregivers in situations where they are troubled relationships.
Oof.
Estrangement.
Yeah.
People haven't spoken in years, but you are the person best situated because of some other factors, without us ever dealing with the trauma. The worst expression of this in my mind that I've heard was a beautiful spirited young sister who was required to be the caregiver for someone who abused her when she was a child. Those are the of things that we got to work through in order to truly build a village again. It's critical that we know our neighbors. It is an absolute necessity that we get it right with our families.
Oof. And it's funny, you didn't know this, so y'all, he's hearing this for the first time, also in real time. My mother travels for work. She works for a federal agency, so she travels very often. Well, her mother is in a nursing home. She now has developed dementia, and we've never really had a relationship. But because I'm the best positioned and I am the granddaughter, the onus was on me to take care of her, to show up, to make sure the clothes were washed, and she went to her doctor's appointments and things like that. And so, much like you were saying, here I am caring for someone who I don't have a relationship. And at this point, because of her condition, I will never have a relationship, right? Because of the dementia. And so it's an internal struggle of one, I'm showing up because it's the right thing to do. I'm showing up because I know my mother would want me to do this, and I love my mother, and I don't want her to ever feel like she has to stop her life to come do this. But also there's tension here. Also I'm having to stop my life to care for someone who I don't even know. Right? Basic, simple things about. And so, yes, to your point, we must
Yeah, but not only all of those really important things that you just shared, Chamaji, but where's the textbook? Where's the training curriculum to tell you what you ought to be doing in that situation?
Yes.
That's recalibrating the village. That's recognizing that we can't expect people to be good caregivers if we haven't talked about what caregiving entails,
looks like,
what it is.
Yes. Wow. Yes. I can't believe you said that example right now, because yeah, it's very real currently, even today. I want to pivot just a little bit. And so as we talk about repairing that, I guess I want to ask what causes the disconnect in the first place. And I'll give my example and then you can let me know. So for me, my experience has been that young people, you think you know everything when you're young, right? You don't need the advice of an elder. They've never been through this before. You got it. You have the plan in place. I can do this on my own. And that's what I've seen from young person to elder. What I've seen elder to young person is gatekeeping, especially in the realm of kind of the political sphere that I work in. I've seen them be burned by other young people, so they no longer have the desire to try to connect with young people anymore, and they kind of are hardened to us. And so there comes this like blaming of young people for things and young people to elders for things. And I think that's a part of the rift that I experience most frequently. What do you experience in this disconnect?
So I think that one of the things that my generation has to own is that we watched while the cultural and familiar connections were being dissipated. And we were preoccupied with other things, jobs, money, making certain our children and our families lived a certain place, looked a certain way, wore certain things, went to certain schools, did other things. And meanwhile, back at the, I don't want to say ranch, back at the village, the culture that kept our generations before us and the family ties were being dissipated along the way. And so much was lost. And I think I remarked in the last conversation, maybe I did with Gary Zamaji, but I was in a conversation once and 4 or 5 Black men and one of the brothers talked with great eloquence about how the generation behind us was lost. And one of the other brothers, who was really soft-spoken, rarely said anything.
Again, part of being an adult is being able to think on your feet. If there is no playbook, then you might have to come up with your own playbook. Okay, dude, and maybe it's my military experience. One of the things that, I was in Army ROTC when I was in college. One of the things, and left it, one of the things that I appreciated about the Navy, and it kind of suits, my personality, I guess. Not every goddamn thing is written in a rule book. Not every piece of advice was even appropriate for every situation. Sometimes you actually have to engage that brain that God gave you and come up with your own rule book. Don't be afraid. Your brain is fine. Like Glenn Lowry says, there's nothing wrong with Black people. You are perfectly capable of meeting the moment. If there is no rule book, make up a rule book and then write it down so anyone else who might encounter this particular situation you're in can benefit from your advice. And you know what? Maybe that advice will be trash too. And the next person will have to come up with their own rules. This fucking, I have to have a rule for everything. boring.
Remark that normally when you lose something, you go back to the person who had it last and ask them
Kelvin,
what they did with it.
Kelvin, I'm not even drunk. So maybe what you can do, Kelvin, is send me a couple pounds and I'll go order me some beer. How about that?
And that shut down the conversation.
Yeah.
So I think that it is important for us to recognize.
Oh, you are. Okay, I got you, Kelvin.
How we lost it or allowed it to dissipate
Again,
on our watch.
Fred, I don't know. You just, what does parenting have to do with anything that I just said? I'm talking about adults. If you are 40 years old, it really doesn't matter the parenting by that time. You're an adult. You can be your own person. Parenting at 40? Are you still looking to be parented at 40? Really?
In attempting to build something
Fred,
new.
I'm sorry, but I'm right. I think a 40-year-old whining about the advice they got from their boomer parents is weak. It is fucking weak. It is not manly behavior for those who are preoccupied with what's feminine and what's masculine. Whining on a goddamn YouTube panel about the boomers is pussy behavior.
Something new amongst the generations, and what that requires of us.
What makes you think I'm talking about her, Fred? If you're talking about her, that's fine. I'm talking about blaming shit on boomers. I was talking about that before she started in this video.
And to sit in spaces that are uncomfortable.
And by the way, has she complained about her mother? Yeah, her mother's got her doing something that it is weird, but you know what? This young lady's an adult. She doesn't have to do it. If she decides to do it, that's on her, not on her mother.
Mm-hmm. And to accept our lashes when they are appropriate.
Dude, I'm not defending. Dude, why would I defend my parents?
Create these containers.
They've done nothing wrong.
Allow us to have healthy and real conversations.
My
and
feelings.
Not this talking at one another, or not this living on the superficial level, because that,
dude, you know what?
Allow us to make progress.
That's the other thing. So what if I'm emotional? Men can't have emotions. I bet you're on that stoicism bullshit. Fucking y'all go ahead and think Marcus Aurelius was like some great philosopher. Dude, this stoicism is bullshit, especially if you don't know what the Stoics were all about. And again, I have no need to defend my parents. As far as I'm concerned, they did a decent job.
So it's creating these spaces that are multi-generational, and where the norm is we are here to have real, truthful, healthy, helpful conversations that are not intentionally harmful to anybody.
I agree. And what I hear you say is a place with mutual respect for each other's contribution to what we're building together, right? For our future, for our collective futures.
So, Margie,
no, I think Jetson's actually, I'm definitely going to be looking at more of his videos. I don't agree with everything he says, but he seems like a pretty solid individual.
Person who brings anything to the table. That would be foolish.
I'd love to know how the family name became Jetson.
Disrupt that construct that has permeated you know, I made the remark quite often when I served as pastor of the Star Hill Church, that we sometimes hold on to the form of things without understanding the function of a thing. There are certain things that are in place in our institutions that were placed there at a point in time to serve a particular function. And sometimes we either hold on to the form too long or discard it too quickly because we don't take time to understand the function. You know, and so the you know, the multi-generational household, the family gatherings that included moments like you described, sitting with older folks, listening, those things were part of the culture, not because older people loved hearing themselves talk, but because they had insights that were helpful for the generations that were coming along. And so we created these constructs. I mean, I sat on the front porch, and my great-grandmother and my great-grandfather would at times come sit in their rocking chairs. And you would see people, children, coming to sit and ask and listen to these stories. They weren't just stories. They were helping us navigate life.
Absolutely.
I made the comment, and we can move on, but I made the comment not very long ago that the longer I live, the wiser my great-grandparents become.
Yeah, absolutely. You begin to be able to apply that wisdom and see it play out in your own life. You like
see it and see now what I was not able to see then. But I'm able to benefit from it, Samaji, because I sat and absorbed it even when I didn't understand it. And in my limited understanding at that moment, even when I disagreed with it, even when I thought they were old-fashioned.
Yes.
Now I see the wisdom of many of those things. And we have to create the ability for you to feel like I'm old-fashioned, but at least to hear part of what I'm saying, because maybe one day it'll prove to be helpful to you.
Bingo. Just bear it in mind. You know, like my 10th grade English teacher used to tell me, you know, always take a note. Actually told the class, take a note, take notes. You can always throw them away. Listen to what the old people are saying. You don't have to, you know, follow any advice or anything like that, but you never know. It might come in handy. Yeah, this dude's spot on. He's not saying you got to do what the, you know, what the old people suggested or advised. Just bear it in mind. Might come in helpful. Perfect advice.
I'm immediate, and this is such a frivolous example, but it's something that I remember to this day. I came home, I was in high school, crying about my high school sweetheart, and I went to my great-grandmother's house, and I'm sitting on the couch pouting. She in the kitchen cooking. She's like, you know, what's wrong with you? And so I'm telling her about the situation, and she said, baby, you can't wish him into what he ain't or out of what he is. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget
it. And you know what? All these few years later, that wisdom is still true.
It's kicking in and it's still true. And I'm like, he showed me who he is, and I can't wish him out of it or into something else.
Yes.
So yes. So as young people are taking in this wisdom, we're soaking it in, and now we're like, okay, there's something to this intergenerational conversation thing. How can younger generations get involved and actively advocate for systems that protect the life, dignity, welfare, and lived experience of Black elders?
Thank you for the question. And I want to come to it and stress the importance of advocacy. I do want to add, though, that there is a chapter in the book where I write about the shift from advocacy to activism.
Okay.
Because I believe one of the most important shifts that needs to happen, and it is even more so the case in 2025, is that Black elders need to be activists. In our DNA is for the older baby boomers, Jim and Jane Crow, civil rights movement, the integration, and all of these things that would serve our community well. And so the voices of Black elders need to be activated in service, not to ourselves, but to our community and to those who are coming behind us. Now, advocacy as it relates to those issues that are critical to aging Black people in America is critical, but it begins with listening. It begins with this reciprocal listening to one another and then acting with intention. Sometimes we are quick to act and we've not actively listened.
Yeah.
And so we don't understand the depth and the breadth of the thing, and we start to act only to learn that we don't have a grasp that is sufficient to really make the change that is necessary. And so younger generations can help shift narratives that devalue aging and the voices and lived experience of Black elders. And so there are just these litany of opportunities to speak to ageism, ableism, racism, sexism, all of these things that show up in the lived experience of older Black people. And I believe that younger generations can disabuse people, their contemporaries, those who are younger than them, of some of these things that show up in programs and platforms all around us. But it's not just about listening and acting with intent. It's important that we are acting together.
Yeah.
When young people and older people act as co-creators, then we move from these strategic models or these, organizing designs to a place of solidarity. And that's where transformation happens. When we build this thing together and we execute together, we adapt together, and we experience change together. And so it starts with listening and acting with intent, but it's about building together and co-creating the future that we want.
I like that, co-creating the future that we want. And there's like a shared ownership, right?
There is a shared ownership, but here's the obligation of elders. My obligation, and one of the things, so much, Samaji, of what I saw in my great-grandparents and in my grandparents and in my mother and my father, so much of what I saw them do was sacrifice of themselves for the future. And so their activism, their protesting, their doing the things that were necessary to change the world that we lived in. I grew up on what we call the dead end of North 48th Street in Eden Park. And it was called the dead end because there was a cinder block, an 8-foot cinder block that the government, the local government, had used taxpayer dollars to obstruct our access to the next neighborhood because it was a white community. And so my dad and my uncle, who the main thoroughfare in the neighborhood I grew up in is named after now, they became activists, civil rights activists, and attacked that, not simply to tear down the brick wall so that they could go into another neighborhood, but they wanted to change the system where their local government would do things to obstruct opportunities for their children and for their grandchildren and for their nieces and nephews and others in the community. And so it is understanding that my obligation is not to build a world that's going to serve me well.
Yeah.
It's to build a world that will serve the next generation well.
One of my absolute favorite quotes is, a society grows great when old men plant trees and whose shade they'll never sit.
I use a version of that quote at the end of my TEDx talk because I too think that it is so powerful.
Yeah.
A concept. And we are in a season where there needs to be some tree planting.
Whew, ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
One of the questions in the chat says, how to get involved as an elder with Aging While Black. How can people go about doing that?
So, thank you very much for the interest. I would encourage everybody to go to agingwhileblack.co, and it would be com, but the person who owns the domain agingwhileblack.com wants $20,000 and they can have it. So it's agingwhileblack.co. There's a tab for a link, a tab to connect with us. Share your name, email address. You will start receiving communications from us. There's also the ability to send us emails at info@agingwhileblack.co, and we will follow up with you to understand where you are, what it is that you're doing in your community, how it aligns with the things that we are doing, and how we might be able to build together. So agingwhileblack.co, connect with us. While you're there, look at all of the other stuff that's on the site, but also send us an email at info@agingwhileblack.co.
Okay, I'm getting down to my last couple of questions here. And so I want to ask, this entire discussion, as always, you're extremely optimistic about this. And when I say this, I mean young people and older people at the intersection of race, age, identity, etc., really doing this work and making it happen. What makes you so hopeful? What keeps you? What makes you hopeful?
So, alert, Samaji. I'm about to tell our business here.
Go ahead.
You give me hope. Our relationship gives me hope. Guys, I met Samaji. I was the pastor of the Star Hill Church. We were doing an activity to build our community, and I don't say this in a bragging way, arrogant or humble brag, either way, but we did things in the community all of the time. And one of the things that we were doing was community rebuild. And so in this instance, I went to the house, interestingly enough, now that I think about it, Samaji, of a Black elder. And the students from the LSU NAACP were there en masse painting this Black elder's house. They didn't know this woman or her family, but they were there serving, and that intrigued me. And I walked up, and there was this young woman who kind of stood out in the crowd and wanted to know who I was and why I was and why I was asking all of these questions. And we started this conversation. And I share with people all of the time. I don't remember how many years ago that was, but all these years later, Samaji, every time we have a conversation, it's like it's a continuation of the one we started those years ago. And we've talked about older and younger. We've talked about the way the village, the institutions, both of us, have a deep passion for churches. And we've talked about the ways in which churches have not valued young people systemically, and how young people have not seen the value of organized religion. And what does that mean? We've talked about politics. We've talked about our communities. We've talked about families. And so what gives me hope is people like you and conversations like the one we have been able to build. I don't think that that's the exception. I think that there are conversations that are happening, just not enough of them.
Yeah.
And so what gives me hope is seeing spaces where age is not a barrier, but a bond.
Yeah.
It connects us. When older and younger people are able to engage one another, not as others, but as collaborators. One of the joys of the work Callie and I get to do is we travel around this country and we bring together groups of folks. And when you see Black elders sitting at the table with millennials and, that long list of Gen alphabets, it unlocks a potential that is powerful. I describe it as when fresh energy meets hard-earned wisdom.
Ooh.
And when that happens, something catalytic emerges. The vision and the ingenuity and the energy of younger generations gets grounded in the experience of older folks. And legacy becomes a tool for innovation, not a badge of honor, but something that is used to create and support mutual respect and shared purpose. And so I see that happening, but that's not the narrative that carries the day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the one that we need to lift up. Last thing I'll say in the book, because it was it was something that when I went back, but before the book went to copy, I had to read it aloud 3 times from front to back. And I'll be honest with you, by the time I got to the 3rd time, I was tired of hearing myself. But there was something that, interestingly enough, I didn't hear until the 3rd time, and it jumped out to me. And it's a statement that I write, and it's in chapter 3 when I talk about, interestingly enough, Samaji, recalibrating the village. And what I write is that when the generations connect, not out of duty, but out of shared purpose, something sacred and strategic is activated, and community becomes a place of possibility.
Say that one more time. I need that to marinate over I love that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever told you my side of this, so in our last few minutes, I'm going to tell you. Like PJ, and you'll hear me call him PJ, Raymond, Pastor Jensen. It just depends on the day. We met that day working on that house, and the very first thing that struck me after he told me he was the pastor was that he was willing to engage us, right? So I come from Dallas. We're the home of the mega churches, and it's often hard to even get to the pastor, let alone have him engage you in such a way where it feels like it's a friend versus, somebody that's sitting high and looking low. That was the very first thing. It was extremely warm. It was extremely welcoming, and it was inquisitive, like genuinely wanting to know and showing interest in what we were doing and our why. After that, I started to stalk the church a little bit. I'm a pew baby. I grew up in church and knew that I needed to be in one at some point, but hadn't really started going just yet. And from then on, I would sit in the back row at Star Hill. I might have had the makeup on from the night before at the club, but I was going to be there. And I was going to be there because of a word that you just used, grounding. There is something very grounding about being in a safe space with an elder who affirms you, who says, no, you're on the right path. You're doing the right thing. I know it feels like this, where you can go ask questions, where you can make mistakes and come back and say, well, this is what happened this time. What do you think about this? And I think there is a friendship, there is a mutual respect, but there is just this safeness, and you use the word sacred. I think that's exactly what it is. This sacred space that comes out of two people, older, younger, being willing to come to the middle and say, like, how are you today? How's life? What's going on? How can I support you? What's happening in your world? Here's what's happening in my world. What do you think about this? What do you feel about this? And like, that's where community is born, truly, because then I was like, hey, to my friends, hey, I go to this really cool place on Sundays. Do you guys want to come with me? And it started as 1 and 2. And by the time I left, I think it was like 5 or 6 of us that were coming to Star Hill, because of this one conversation that you had where you dared to be interested in a young person. And so I greatly appreciate the work that you're doing, that you care to be in community with us, that you care to engage us, and that you're pushing the work forward. And so I just love this quote: when the generations connect, not out of duty, but out of shared purpose, something sacred, strategic is activated. Community becomes a place of possibility. So thank you for creating that space here and elsewhere, honestly.
Thank you, my dear sister. Thank you for being willing to join me here. It's a joy to share with you, and for your willingness. When I reached out to you and talked to you about Aging While Black, and asked for you to help me build something, you said yes without hesitation. And that helped. That included strategic planning, joining the founding board. And so I'm just grateful for your partnership.
I'm saying. Are there any last questions before we wrap up? I don't want to cut anybody off. I was gonna say speak now, forever hold your peace, but not. You can always connect with Pastor Jeff. Tell them all your socials and your @, so they can know where to find you.
So Aging While Black is on all the socials, Aging While Black. And for me, it is Raymond A. Jetson across most of the socials. I don't do X, but most of the socials, you can find me. And I mean, I'm a boomer, so of course I got a Facebook account, and proud of it. But I also am on some other platforms. But Aging While Black is in all of the interwebs.
I love it. And please go check out, he mentioned the TED Talk. Go check out his TED Talks, his articles. He has articles in Age Wave, in Forbes, and where else? Like, because I've lost count at this point.
They've been in a lot of places.
Okay. The next thing you'll see is the flyer for the next talk. Please join us if you can. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You should see it here soon. There we go.
Yeah. So I had the pleasure of taking part in the Emerge conference earlier this year, put on by the Financial Health Network. It was an interesting conversation about finances and the opportunities between Black elders, Black communities, and the financial services industry. And so I'm glad and thrilled that Marissa Walster has agreed to join us on August 21st, same time, same channel, for a conversation around wealth, wisdom, and what's owed, reimagining finance for Black elders.
Love it.
And so thank you again, Samaji. I'm so grateful. And thanks to all of you guys for joining us. We are honored that you would give us your time for this conversation. Share, like, subscribe, pass on to others, please. We would be grateful.
Perfect. Have a good evening, y'all.
All right. Well, you know what? I enjoyed that. That's going to give me some more stuff to go out and we can explore. So being an elder myself, who knows? Maybe I have found a cause, because I certainly don't want to join AARP. So I actually did have a video I was going to show, but I think I'm going to wrap it up early. I have a couple things I should probably be doing. Tomorrow, 1:30 or so, in the afternoon. Tomorrow's Friday, so we are getting closer to a weekend. No ideas for a Saturday show. If anybody comes up with something interesting, email me or put it in the chat tomorrow. Saturday show is not guaranteed. I don't have any particular soapbox to stand on. So everyone, please make sure you hit the like button on the way out. If you happen to be new or catch a replay and you're new, please subscribe to the show and share it out. We would like to be monetized at some point, or at least have the option to be monetized. Dirty Dude, again, thank you for supporting the show. Leave a message or something if you catch this on the replay. I'm always thrilled to get comments and generally reply to them. So we will catch up where we left off. I had a book video about books and why they're important, which I'm sure will bore everyone, but I will suffer through it at least. And then one last bit of news. Apparently Stormcrow Stormcrow's back on YouTube. Don't know why, but it's a Stormcrow TV. So feel free to go over there. You know what? I'll even drop the link. Just took a look at some video that popped up. I subscribed to his show earlier. So go out and check him out. He is an interesting fellow, and always worth watching if you're into that sort of thing. So let's see. It's Storm Crow TV. So y'all take it easy. I will see you all tomorrow afternoon.